Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Illegal dumping and littering is a concern across the Gladstone region, with over 134 offences in the last 18 months. Our region is beautiful, but there are a few bad apples that ruin it for the rest of us, and they need to clean up their act.
Commonly found items at illegal dumping sites across the region include car bodies and batteries, mattresses, tyres, white goods and furniture, and green waste. These items can be disposed of at any of the region's waste transfer stations, some of them even for free.
Illegal dumping and littering pollutes our environment, harms plants and animals, and detracts from the enjoyment of our public spaces. It can lead to stormwater and ocean pollution, with large amounts of plastic, sugar sachets, and cigarette butts caught in stormwater traps and grates.
It's cheaper for everyone to dispose of waste correctly. Illegal dumping and littering costs our ratepayers thousands of dollars each year in waste management and clean-up. It's also costly for our dumper, with penalties of up to $10,000.
We can all work together to keep our region beautiful and dispose of waste responsibly by placing rubbish in the bins, or even holding onto the rubbish until you're near a suitable bin, and using our local waste facilities. Don't be part of the problem of pollution. We want you to be a part of the solution.
From towns to the bush, illegal dumping and littering is everybody's responsibility. Protect our public spaces and natural environment by doing the right thing for today and tomorrow.
If you see illegal dumping,
Dob in a dumper.
See it,
report it,
stop it.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Well, good morning. The time being 9 a.m, I declare open the general meeting for the Gladstone Regional Council for the 21st of March 2023. Councillors, I call for apologies. There's no apologies. We do, however, have Councillor Muscat on Teams this morning. Good morning, Councillor Muscat. We move to the next item on the agenda, councillors. Firstly, before I do that, I'd like to welcome the Central State School students, grade 3 and 4, or grade 4 and 3-4, who are joining us here this morning in the gallery. And for those watching online, what we will do this morning is move through the agenda till about 9:15, then we'll close the live stream. We'll have questions and answers from our students from Central State School, and then we'll restart the live stream again. And it's very good to welcome back students. We haven't had students in the gallery since before COVID, so it's fantastic to have you here this morning. We're looking forward to your questions this morning, students. So the next item on the agenda, councillors, is messages of condolence. Do I have any messages of condolence?
I have one forthcoming, Mayor Matt.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, thank you for that. It is with deep respects and regret and fond sadness that I advise of the recent passing of Mr. Murray Ware. Murray effectively was a local businessman for many, many years here in the Gladstone region, a friend of many, and was always known as the gentleman with the camera. And many of us who knew Murray always was the silent type that probably made his wife Zita shine. So today, appropriately, in our condolences, just simply wanted to pass on that from the Gladstone Regional Council's perspective in the Gladstone region, that to his loving wife Zita and to all the family, that we pass on our deepest condolences and sympathies. And Murray himself, he will be missed, but never forgotten. May he rest in peace.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Churchill. Councillors, any further messages of condolence? For those watching on live stream, we will have a message of condolence for the passing of Norma Tanner at our next general meeting. Okay, councillors, the next item on the agenda is the prior notifications of conflicts of interest, which is the next item, and my first one, G4.5, is that I have a conflict of interest in item G4.5, and I advise that I previously declared a conflict of interest in item agenda G4.5, material change of use for outdoor sport and recreation, DA 81 2022. It says lot 300, it's actually lot 200 Coronation Drive, Tenham Sands. In accordance with my previous declaration, I'll be leaving the room and handing over to the Deputy Mayor to chair that part of the meeting. Councillor Branthwaite, I believe you have a conflict as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I advise the meeting that I've previously declared conflict of interest in agenda item G/4.6 tourism services agreement with the Gladstone Area Promotion Development Limited, and in accordance with my previous declaration, I will be leaving the room. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Branthwaite. Councillor O'Grady.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I advise the meeting that I have a declarable conflict of interest in agenda item G4.6 Tourism Services Agreement, Gladstone Area Promotion and Development Limited, as my brothers and their businesses are members of the GAPDL, and I recently have become actively involved in promotion and marketing of their business. Due to the nature of today's agenda item being considered on the contract of funding and services with GAPDL, I will elect to leave the room and will not participate in the decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Grady. Councillor Muscat.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just, I guess in the same item, I have previously declared a conflict. Item G 4.6, Tourism Services Agreement, Gladstone Area Promotion and Development Limited. So I will be disconnecting or can't leave the room, but I will mute myself, or I'm not sure what the process is, but I will follow that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Muscat.
You sure we've got enough staying in the room?
We do have a quorum, yes, because that's it for conflicts of interest in that agenda item, unless, Councillor Trevor, you have one?
No, I just wanted to understand what the process is in the event of a councillor or indeed yourself, Mayor, declaring a conflict of interest online. What is the position? Do you switch your computer off and then how do we get back in touch with you and those sorts of issues? Because there will be occasions other than this one when others will be coming online too.
Tanya or Lisa?
I think it would be most appropriate if the video was turned off and your microphone muted. That would be sufficient for leaving the room. It's so that you can't influence discussion, and we can monitor and mute from our end as well.
Thank you, Tanya.
I will be hearing anyway, so as soon as you finish discussing, I can come back in.
That's right, because you could watch it on the live stream at any point, any time. Yep.
That's right.
Thank you. Councillor Branthwaite. Councillor, you've done that? Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mayor Matt. That's a good question, Councillor Trevor, especially with the young students here today and you being at the forefront of advancement of technology in understanding how these conflicts of interest can get arise when we're using technology. Please be advised that I have a declarable conflict of interest for agenda item G 4.7, which is the Community Investment Program Signature Event Application. The first one in relation to the Mount Larcombe District Show Society, I have previously declared as a volunteer member for the Mount Larcombe District Show, and as a member of the International Percussion Society, I provide my volunteer services as an honorary percussion tutor and performer for and with the Gladstone Thistle Pipes and Drums. The band performs throughout the program for the annual Mount Larcombe Show and leads the grand parade, for which it receives a minor fee payment. I receive no remuneration for this service. I believe that my private interest will not affect my ability and judgment to participate and vote on this decision in the best interests of the public, and accordingly I request to stay in the chambers subject to the will of my peers. That's my first one, and subject to this second one may be to you, Mayor Matt, to consider whether the agenda item would be separated, and I'll be guided by your and my colleagues' advice. In relation to the Gladstone Harbour Festival, I'm a member of a country rock and rhythm band called Sand. Sand is a three-piece local musicians who perform a variety of gigs for community, charities, fundraisers and negotiated contract performance agreements. We have been invited to appear and perform at and on the 2023 Harbour Festival program on the main stage on Saturday night, 8th of April. As this show is likely to be a remunerated gig, I will choose to leave the chambers for that agenda item.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Tanya, do we need to determine whether there's a conflict of interest in the Mount Larcombe Show issue?
No, not whether there's a conflict of interest, just that Councillor Churchill has requested to remain in the room.
Yep.
So that's what needs to be decided, whether he can do that.
Councillors, firstly, can I get a motion to split the agenda item? Councillor?
I'm happy to move that the agenda item be split.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. Second to Councillor Goodluck. Is there any debate on the splitting of the agenda item? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Motion's carried. Was moved. Councillor Trevor, second Councillor Goodluck. Now, questions to Councillor Churchill regarding the conflict, please.
And I'm also happy to move that Councillor Churchill remain in the room in respect of the Mount Larcombe Show Society.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. Second to Councillor Hanson. Any further questions or comments for Councillor Churchill? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will split that agenda item and stay and leave at the appropriate time. Is there any further conflicts of interest, councillors, that have not been previously registered? No, we'll move to the next item. No? Okay, move to the next item on the agenda, which is the Mayor's statement on current issues. And I firstly want to acknowledge and congratulate the participants in the community musical Grease, which has recently completed at the Gladstone Entertainment Convention Centre. It was fantastic local community musical, and I hope everyone got a chance to go in and see it. It was just unreal, not just the cast, but the crew and everybody involved. And just hats off to the team for organising that. And a lot of volunteer hours went into that as well. Upcoming events in the Gladstone region, of course, we have the Tenham Crab Classic happening on Sunday the 2nd of April, and it's obviously the fun day and music and events, and there's, of course, the popular Crab Pot Challenge and the famous crab auction as well. There's raffles and rides and face painting for the kids, so I'm sure that that'll be a fantastic day in Tenham Sands. We've got the Boyne Valley Music Campout happening on the 7th to the 9th of April, and there's lots of information on the Boyne Valley Music Campout Facebook page if you want to jump on and have a look at that as well. Of course, the McCosker Gladstone Speedway happening in Benaraby at our motorsport precinct on the 15th of April. I'm not sure if it's sold out, but if you're a bit of a petrol supporter, a motorsport supporter, petrolhead as they used to call me, make sure you get involved, get your tickets, because the Speedway is back in Gladstone and it's looking pretty awesome now, so make sure you get involved in that. And where would we be with that? Easter in Gladstone? The Gladstone Harbour Festival, of course, is happening over the Easter weekend as well. We've got the Gladstone Photography Competition, the Village opening at the Brisbane to Gladstone Village happening on Thursday night. There's the Fun Run organised by the Gladstone Road Runners. There's the Raft Regatta back again. Of course, the Brisbane to Gladstone Yacht Race leaving Shorncliffe on Good Friday will be live streamed to the world again. We have the Yachtsman's Long Lunch, the Sounds at the Village for our under-18s happening in the village as well on Friday night as well. The Seafood Festival, there's the Harbour Cruise Brunch, there's the Line Crossing Party, which I'm going to be enjoying, let me tell you. Hopefully we'll be back in time from Shorncliffe to enjoy the Line Crossing Party. As I said, the Harbour Festival, fireworks on 3 nights, and live music at the Gladstone Yacht Club, the Sailing Matters exhibition at the Gladstone Art Gallery and Museum, and of course, so much more happening in the Gladstone region for Easter in Gladstone, so make sure you get involved. And can I congratulate Taylor Bullen, who is the new chair of our Youth Council elected last night, and Jacob Humphreys was elected as Deputy Chair. So congratulations to Taylor and Jacob, and looking forward to working with our Youth Council over the next 12 months. It's a very great young bunch of people who will no doubt provide valuable insights to Council over the next 12 months on issues important to our younger generation. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, Councillors.
Can I move a point of order?
Yes, again.
Aren't you going to mention to everybody, especially the young ones here today, that you're going to be on one of the vessels so that they could follow you?
Well, yes.
Can you
thank
give details?
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Well, it's probably pretty much common knowledge now. So yes, I am competing. Well, participating, I think you might say, in the Brisbane to Gladstone Yacht Race this year on a yacht called Skimmer. So if you want to watch it on the live tracker, you can certainly watch the live stream. They'll cross to us at some point. For the first hour or so, as we're preparing to start the race, they'll cross to me when it's nice and calm. And then after that, they can take the video back and we'll get into the race. And yeah, we'll certainly look forward to...
Hold on tight.
Yeah, hold on. I'll have my life jacket on when you're going to be in the ocean. It's an overnight race, and we leave Shorncliffe on Good Friday. And we travel all day Friday night, all day Saturday night, and hopefully arrive sometime in Gladstone Sunday. Early would be nice, but we'll see what the winds are. So, yeah, it's the 75th Brisbane to Gladstone Yacht Race. For our community, this is a big deal. 75 years the yacht race has been going, and so as the Mayor, I thought appropriate time to jump on and board a boat, and we'll see how we go. Yeah, so I've participated before on a yacht, on a, what was it called, Councillor Bransway? We did the race one year during COVID, but it was online. It was it was pretty safe. Virtual race in the safety of our lounge room, and I think I came last. But anyway, hopefully this year we can cross the line in the middle back somewhere. Thank you, Councillor Churchill, for raising that. The next item on the agenda is the confirmation of the minutes. G2.1 is the confirmation of the general meeting minutes for the 21st of February 2023. Can I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Hanson. Seconded, Councillor Cameron. Is any business arising? All in favour? That's a true and correct record. Councillor Muscat. Thank you. The motion is carried.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, just conferring, we actually have the wrong date of the minutes. It was actually the minutes of the 7th of March, correct? Not the 21st of February, so apologies for that.
Sorry about that. I might just remove that. Who was our mover and seconding? Councillor Hanson, Councillor... 7th of March, yeah. Yeah, the order of business is wrong. It's on the agenda correctly. And Councillor Cameron second. Sorry, we'll just correct that. All in favour? Motion's carried. Sorry about that. I'm just reading off here and should have been reading off what's in front of me. Right, I think now we will break our live stream and go into questions and from our visitors from Central State School. We'll reconvene the meeting about 10 a.m. and we also have a deputation from the Heart of Agnes at that point in time as well. So thank you for those watching on live stream. Councillor Muscat, you're welcome to join us, obviously, and we'll reconvene the live stream at 10 a.m. Do I need a motion to break? I don't think so. No? Okay, we're adjourning. Move Councillor Churchill, seconded Councillor O'Grady. We'll adjourn the meeting. All in favour? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Illegal dumping and littering is a concern across the Gladstone region, with over 134 offences in the last 18 months. Our region is beautiful, but there are a few bad apples that ruin it for the rest of us, and they need to clean up their act.
Commonly found items at illegal dumping sites across the region include car bodies and batteries, mattresses, tyres, white goods and furniture, and green waste. These items can be disposed of at any of the region's waste transfer stations, some of them even for free.
Illegal dumping and littering pollutes our environment, harms plants and animals, and detracts from the enjoyment of our public spaces. It can lead to stormwater and ocean pollution, with large amounts of plastic, sugar sachets, and cigarette butts caught in stormwater traps and grates.
It's cheaper for everyone to dispose of waste correctly. Illegal dumping and littering cost our ratepayers thousands of dollars each year in waste management and clean-up. It's also costly for our dumper, with penalties of up to $10,000.
We can all work together to keep our region beautiful and dispose of waste responsibly by placing rubbish in the bins, or even holding onto the rubbish until you're near a suitable bin, and using our local waste facilities. Don't be part of the problem of pollution. We want you to be a part of the solution.
From towns to the bush, illegal dumping and littering is everybody's responsibility. Protect our public spaces and natural environment by doing the right thing for today and tomorrow.
If you see illegal dumping,
Dob in a dumper.
See it,
report it, stop it.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Illegal dumping and littering is a concern across the Gladstone region, with over 134 offences in the last 18 months. Our region is beautiful, but there are a few bad apples that ruin it for the rest of us, and they need to clean up their act.
Commonly found items at illegal dumping sites across the region include car bodies and batteries, mattresses, tyres, white goods and furniture, and green waste. These items can be disposed of at any of the region's waste transfer stations, some of them even for free.
Illegal dumping and littering pollutes our environment, harms plants and animals, and detracts from the enjoyment of our public spaces. It can lead to stormwater and ocean pollution, with large amounts of plastic, sugar sachets, and cigarette butts caught in stormwater traps and grates.
It's cheaper for everyone to dispose of waste correctly. Illegal dumping and littering cost our ratepayers thousands of dollars each year in waste management and clean-up. It's also costly for our dumper, with penalties of up to $10,000.
We can all work together to keep our region beautiful and dispose of waste responsibly by placing rubbish in the bins, or even holding onto the rubbish until you're near a suitable bin, and using our local waste facilities. Don't be part of the problem of pollution. We want you to be a part of the solution.
From towns to the bush, illegal dumping and littering is everybody's responsibility. Protect our public spaces and natural environment by doing the right thing for today and tomorrow.
If you see illegal dumping,
Dob in a dumper.
See it,
report it, stop it.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Illegal dumping and littering is a concern across the Gladstone region, with over 134 offences in the last 18 months. Our region is beautiful, but there are a few bad apples that ruin it for the rest of us, and they need to clean up their act.
Commonly found items at illegal dumping sites across the region include car bodies and batteries, mattresses, tyres, white goods and furniture, and green waste. These items can be disposed of at any of the region's waste transfer stations, some of them even for free.
Illegal dumping and littering pollutes our environment, harms plants and animals, and detracts from the enjoyment of our public spaces. It can lead to stormwater and ocean pollution, with large amounts of plastic, sugar sachets and cigarette butts caught in stormwater traps and grates.
It's cheaper for everyone to dispose of waste correctly. Illegal dumping and littering cost our ratepayers thousands of dollars each year in waste management and clean-up. It's also costly for our dumper, with penalties of up to $10,000.
We can all work together to keep our region beautiful and dispose of waste responsibly by placing rubbish in the bins, or even holding onto the rubbish until you're near a suitable bin, and using our local waste facilities. Don't be part of the problem of pollution. We want you to be a part of the solution.
From towns to the bush, illegal dumping and littering is everybody's responsibility. Protect our public spaces and natural environment by doing the right thing for today and tomorrow.
If you see illegal dumping,
Dob in a dumper.
See it,
report it, stop it.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Illegal dumping and littering is a concern across the Gladstone region, with over 134 offences in the last 18 months. Our region is beautiful, but there are a few bad apples that ruin it for the rest of us, and they need to clean up their act.
Commonly found items at illegal dumping sites across the region include car bodies and batteries, mattresses, tyres, white goods and furniture, and green waste. These items can be disposed of at any of the region's waste transfer stations, some of them even for free.
Illegal dumping and littering pollutes our environment, harms plants and animals, and detracts from the enjoyment of our public spaces. It can lead to stormwater and ocean pollution, with large amounts of plastic, sugar sachets, and cigarette butts caught in stormwater traps and grates.
It's cheaper for everyone to dispose of waste correctly. Illegal dumping and littering cost our ratepayers thousands of dollars each year in waste management and clean-up. It's also costly for our dumper, with penalties of up to $10,000.
We can all work together to keep our region beautiful and dispose of waste responsibly by placing rubbish in the bins, or even holding onto the rubbish until you're near a suitable bin, and using our local waste facilities. Don't be part of the problem of pollution. We want you to be a part of the solution.
From towns to the bush, illegal dumping and littering is everybody's responsibility. Protect our public spaces and natural environment by doing the right thing for today and tomorrow.
If you see illegal dumping,
Dob in a dumper.
See it,
report it, stop it.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Illegal dumping and littering is a concern across the Gladstone region, with over 134 offences in the last 18 months. Our region is beautiful, but there are a few bad apples that ruin it for the rest of us, and they need to clean up their act.
Commonly found items at illegal dumping sites across the region include car bodies and batteries, mattresses, tyres, white goods and furniture, and green waste. These items can be disposed of at any of the region's waste transfer stations, some of them even for free.
Illegal dumping and littering pollutes our environment, harms plants and animals, and detracts from the enjoyment of our public spaces. It can lead to stormwater and ocean pollution, with large amounts of plastic, sugar sachets, and cigarette butts caught in stormwater traps and grates.
It's cheaper for everyone to dispose of waste correctly. Illegal dumping and littering cost our ratepayers thousands of dollars each year in waste management and clean-up. It's also costly for our dumper, with penalties of up to $10,000.
We can all work together to keep our region beautiful and dispose of waste responsibly by placing rubbish in the bins, or even holding onto the rubbish until you're near a suitable bin, and using our local waste facilities. Don't be part of the problem of pollution. We want you to be a part of the solution.
From towns to the bush, illegal dumping and littering is everybody's responsibility. Protect our public spaces and natural environment by doing the right thing for today and tomorrow.
If you see illegal dumping,
Dob in a dumper.
See it,
report it, stop it.
Well, welcome back, councillors, officers, and thank you for those watching online. We have just had a break to have some question and answers from our students from Central State School, grades 3 and 4. Fantastic group of students, and I hope they had a good time this morning in the council chambers. Next on the agenda, councillors, is our deputation from the Heart of Agnes Association, and I welcome Byron here this morning, and he will take over the presentation now. So over to you, mate. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I don't need to hold. Good morning. Thank you, everyone. My name is Byron from the Heart of Agnes Community Association. We're a recently created platform in Agnes Water to begin community building and to start generating some further partnerships and hopefully further collaboration with council over the year and over the coming years. So I'd like to share a little bit about the survey that we completed last year, but I guess more importantly some of the things that we've progressed on from that survey. I would hope that you've had just a quick chance to have a look at that, because I'd like to spend a little more time this morning, if that's all right, talking about some of the things that we've already actioned from that. We were lucky that the recommendations were quite clear. The feedback was very clear through this mechanism, so being able to respond to it was also quite clear. So Before I do that, I'd like to just spend a moment, if it's all right, to tell you a little bit about Heart of Agnes, because we're not a traditional community organisation by any sense. A few of us in the community with a community or not-for-profit background registered a not-for-profit platform and provided that to all members of our community to be able to use. It's not a closed organisation. We're not funded. We don't provide funded services at this point. It's a member-driven platform as an opportunity for all members of our community, whether they be business, individual, family members, groups, everyone to work together on common goals and on common good to use an established platform to be able to communicate more effectively with council and other bodies and other commercial bodies. It enables our community to be a little bit more organised and to get a bit more organised as an individual body to communicate more effectively and to get more done and to work together. So we're a little bit different in that way. It's good to explain that at this point, because a lot of folks believe we're a regular community association or a residents association, and it's a bit of a different process for that. So it's an opportunity for Agnes community as a whole to begin building and to start moving forward together in a more resourced way. The three things I'd like to just highlight quickly from the survey from last year were the three main areas of recommendations, and there were a number of individual points that we focused on in the last couple of pages of that report, but the three main areas that we were focusing on is around our own local leadership and capacity for local leadership as a community, our ability to engage in a lot of the planning that's happening on the ground, both with council and other larger bodies in the region, and environmental protection, looking at how some of that development is occurring in our region and making sure that our environment's considered in the sustainability of that planning. So we've been moving forward with all three of these areas since the survey's been released, and have made some progress on a number of projects and initiatives already. I'm just going to do a quick overview of some of these today. I would spend a considerable time on any of them, but just as a bit of an idea where we are for now. Around our community leadership, I guess from our community perspective, we would like to work in a much closer relationship with council on the ground, and one of the ways that we can do that is to be able to meet council halfway. It's to start getting more organised as a community body to be able to do more, to support more council initiatives on the ground. So we're looking at our own leadership capacity now as a community model, and beginning to support council services more effectively on the ground, looking at how we can provide the services and delivered to people that may not be able to access those or get those in time. Particularly the training and some of the grants programs through council have been so effective when people have had enough time to be able to access those. So we're keen to start communicating a bit more effectively on the ground and on a regular basis. We're in the process of working with GRT, Gladstone Region in Action Together, talking about a local live data model for the Agnes Water local region. GRT have been capturing some really amazing regional data and on a more grassroots level for folks to see how that's really affecting families and residents on the ground. But there's not a lot of live or a lot of updated information. It's still some of the overarching data that's being captured and kind of focused. It's not coming from the ground up. So we'd like to spend a bit more time over the next 12 months doing more consulting and more engaging with community in a structured, in a more formal way to be able to start accumulating some statistics and data from our community. Other than the census and those that are coming from larger bodies, we really don't have a strong business case for anything that our community wants to put forward. We have to find data from much larger macro sources. And again, the survey was the first step to move forward with locally produced data to see what really is going on for us and what the community wants to back. Heart of Agnes are in a pretty dynamic stage at the moment, having only been around for around a year. We're in the process of restructuring our platform to become the first local community foundation, and it will be focused locally for Agnes Water with, of course, a much wider reach for Gladstone Region. We're working with Australian Communities Foundation at the moment as an auspice body to look at progressing into that for next year. They've been fantastic to deal with and can see the opportunity and the niche that we have in our region. The nearest community funds that we have in Gladstone are both Mackay and Bundaberg. There's a huge niche and a huge strategic niche for us to look at what we can establish for Agnes. And in particular, Agnes doesn't have the industry impact that a lot of the Gladstone region does at the moment. and we're concerned about our capacity to be able to hold that and to manage those relationships so that the beauty of Agnes and what makes it so unique doesn't get ruined and doesn't get taken by that impact. So we'd like to establish a platform to be able to work more effectively with industry and those that want to see Agnes grow and invest in Agnes to be able to allocate some of those funds more locally and more locally directed projects. So it's an exciting development for us now. We'd be hoping to launch the foundation formally by the start of next year and have been in discussions with ACF since last year. So we're not in any rush to do that. We're keen for those to support and for those to invest locally in that sort of asset. And we'll be discussing more of that over the course of the year. So we'll certainly keep you informed as to how that progresses and when that's ready to launch, ideally for next year. Environmental protection, of course, is a major concern for our community. We have a very beautiful area, and as we start seeing many developments hitting the ground, locals are concerned that they're not always following appropriate environmental protection protocols. We see a bit of destruction happening on the ground in the way things are being built. We're not always aware if they're following the right kind of processes in the way environment's managed. The Baffle Creek Basin, to my knowledge, largely encompasses the Agnes Water locality, and it's a prime area for an environmental protection plan to be focused on that locality specifically. So we're talking to DCEG and a number of the environmental groups at the moment to begin something of this nature later next year. Again, it's just a slow conversation that we're having right now, but we would like to focus some of this environmental protection work on the Agnes region specifically, encompassing obviously regional, state and federal legislation and guidelines, but incorporating a lot more local input as well. We have a lot of smart people in Agnes that do a lot of research independently in this space, and like many areas, it's more a matter of collation and just collaboration, getting people together, than trying to reinvent the wheel or create new things. So at this stage, again, it's more conversation and more consultation with environmental groups on the ground. But again, it's another exciting prospect for our community that feel very strongly, obviously, about our environment and would certainly back something of this nature. I guess just to sort of finish, I would just re-emphasise our desire to collaborate and work more closely together as we move along. I know the Agnes community hasn't always been an easy pocket to work with, but I think that we can take a lot more responsibility for that as a community ourselves. We can be a lot more workable, a lot more approachable, and a lot more able to respond to initiatives, both ours and councils. It's really our objective at the moment to try and embed more business infrastructure within our community and within our residents, stronger financial skills and administrative skills, stronger community building skills, so that we can be more independent in the way that we represent ourselves and in the way that we can speak for our own environment and community, but also work with others and collaborate more effectively, which I think is our first step and what we can do and what we're trying to do now. That's really all I have just to present today. There's a lot in there. As I said, I'd probably spend a lot of time on each one of those, but I wanted to just share some of the major strategic works that Heart of Agnes are engaged in at the moment on the ground. We do a lot of other grassroots events and local works as well. We say that our core business is community spirit, and some people find that a bit fluffy bunny when you hear that, but you know when you walk into a town or an area when there's no community spirit. It's very evident. There's huge economic and social ramifications for that. Same with a town that's having a great time and community spirit is thriving. It's very tangible. You can quantify community spirit. And so I guess we're trying to do that at this stage. We're looking at a way to cultivate and nurture that energy and that true essence of our community as it changes, not to prevent change and not to stop any growth, but to steer and to take control of that. We recognise that if you're out of control, you don't panic, you steer, you regain. And so for us, we're looking at that more effectively on the ground right now.
Yeah, thanks, Byron. Councillors, any questions regarding the survey or questions to Byron on the Heart of Agnes? Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, thanks, Byron. Thanks for the details. Thanks for the presentation. I suppose question and comment more than anything is that the council in recent times has made a decision to forge ahead with the review of our current planning scheme. So a lot of the things some of the things that you've talked about and a lot of the things that are coming up in that survey are certainly relevant to the future and the future development. So, so I suppose just in light of the decision that we've made, and it's not an annual review, it's a review that we undertake probably every 5 years, be it in relation to our planning scheme. So my question is, are you aware that we're going to undertake this? And B, most pertinent would be to ensure that you and those that have actively participated in the survey and you know, the Heart of Agnes can contribute to and put some quantity and quality in amongst that review of the planning scheme going forward.
We're certainly aware of the planning review, of course, and a lot of the work we're doing now is strategic timing to be able to support that best. The establishment of a foundation now really supports and boosts that, but also the local engagement in that process a lot more, our own investment and our own personal desire to be part of that. So we're not only aware of that, I guess we're preparing for that a little bit more in terms of how that rolls out to support the community, what major features we would like to see there, and where those resources and features come from, whether they can come from us, whether they come from council or other sources or in partnership. Agnes as a community would like to have a stronger part at that table and part of that planning process. So we're quite invested in staying on top of these planning processes now and being part of that and investing in that locally. So a lot of what we've presented now is to support these planning reviews.
Terrific, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Any further questions? Councillor Goodluck and then Councillor Cameron.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Thanks, Byron, and appreciate the presentation. I thought the survey was interesting. There were some interesting things in there. Some of the challenges that we have, obviously, we're looking at planning and that sort of stuff, and local government, as I'm sure you're aware, don't always have control over planning. There's state planning acts, there's federal things. So I guess if we can collaborate with organisations like yourselves and help our community have a greater understanding of what it is we can influence and where, and who the right stakeholders are to go and try and engage there, that's definitely something that I would welcome the opportunity to do with you guys and others. When we talk about consultation, there's a lot in consultation. Again, consultation is a difficult thing for any organisation, local government's no exception, because consultation means something different to every single person. Some people want to read it in the paper, some people want to jump on Facebook, some people want a letter in the mail, other people, if they get a letter in the mail, won't even read it unless it's important, they'll throw it straight in the bin. Anywhere that we can sort of collaborate with organisations like you guys and help get better outcomes with consultation, I think that's a great, and again, I welcome that opportunity. I did think there was one thing in the survey that I think we could all agree on, and that was that one of the things that the survey respondents said that they don't like is midgies. So I'm sure everyone can agree on that. There's probably not many things that everyone would agree on, but I did find that there's one point that we're all probably on board. But yeah, thanks for coming up, mate, and look forward to working with you guys, and hopefully we can get better outcomes moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Goodluck. Councillor Cameron.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Does your group engage with Discovery Coast Tourism and Commerce?
Yes, as much as we can. DCTC have held kind of the operational space in Agnes for a long time, and I guess the sole operational space as an organised body to be able to access the community. So they hold, I guess, a very specific area or area of work. Heart of Agnes as a platform is a very different area, although we meet in a lot of these, a lot of the projects we're proposing. We're not working as closely with DCTC as we would like, but I guess we're also in the formation stage to be able to present projects and initiatives that are truly ready for collaboration. And so we're not in a rush to really move any of these works forward. We want to make sure that they have a natural momentum, that nothing's really being pushed, and that people get behind them and find them in their own time. And so while we'd like to engage a lot more with DCTC in some of the projects that are ready now, some of them will move in their own time, and we're quite happy for them to do that.
Because I can see a good synergy between the two groups, because you would be more concerned with the domestic side of things, whereas this is a little bit more industry and business. But I see a good synergy there, and I hope that you can work collaboratively together and with the council as well. And we would really enjoy a further collaborative working relationship with Agnes, because I don't believe really that the divide between council and that region is as bad as what it seems to be. I've had personal experience with that, whereby, you know, I walk into the into the tavern with my blazer on, and the bloke behind the bar says, "Did you be a game man wearing that in here, wouldn't you?" So my response was, "Well, I wear with great pride. If someone wants to talk to me, I'm sitting right over there with my lady." And, you know, it was totally different. So I don't believe that divide is as great as it is. A lot of the problems we've got is that I've been involved in development quite a bit over the years, and with developments, the very big ones that have been master planned. And of course, it's very hard to start trying master planning something when it's halfway through its development, because in the regions they tend to develop themselves. But the resistance to development is a bit of a two-edged sword, in which all the services and everything else that you say that are lacking you want usually get followed by development.
Yes.
So if you don't have the development, you don't get the services.
Infrastructure is the key. And everything that anyone has ever said about the survey, but what about this? Someone raised this. It honestly comes back for infrastructure. If we can't house people, if we can't house staff, if we don't have a space to operate, if we don't have a space to grow business. It is, and we highlighted the natural contradiction in ours and all communities. We want all this stuff and we don't want all this stuff. And it's kind of the same stuff.
Yep.
Yep.
Exactly.
And so for us, it's not a matter of saying no, like we can't just limit anything. It's how do we steer? Has to steer. And that changes the mindset of a lot of community members who really don't want to steer. They want to say no. And there's a portion of all communities that just want to say no. And for us, it's getting to know that portion of our community and holding great respect for them as we find people that are more keen to say yes and are ready to work. There is a unifying body of leadership within Agnes that is fairly separate from that somewhat negative point of view and very difficult point of view. And we're really just getting on with it, which is why we're here now, which is why we're encouraging this sort of work. I don't think you'll beat that influence if you try. I think we can only work around it. And together we're strong. Together we do that. So that's what we're trying.
Yeah. It is a matter of diversity, yes. But a lot of the issues that you've brought up there are nationwide.
Absolutely.
You know, you've got to accept that you know, not everything's easily fixed. But very, very interesting survey. A lot of interesting stats as to the demographic there. But it was a very good report, and was it 518 responders?
It's a good number.
As far as the survey goes, that's an excellent result.
We worked very hard for the number.
Yeah. Around 3 to 5% is about a normal.
Yeah.
But it still only represents 18% of the community.
That is true. But we threw the cart well before the horse last year. Before we really introduced ourselves, we put ahead a major body of work, and we did that strategically. We did that on purpose. We wanted the body of work to speak for itself. We wanted the work and to have a track record to speak for itself. And so we did this first, and we put a lot of work into consulting people and reaching folks that we weren't going to be able to reach. It's very hard to reach everyone.
Certainly is.
But no, we're proud of what it is. It's a small step for Agnes, but it's a big step forward.
Well, it is a step, and congratulations on the foresight of doing it. And let's hope that this is the beginning of a very productive relationship.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Muscat online.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hello, Aaron. It's nice to finally see you. Sorry I'm not there. Welcome to the city of Gladstone too. I just wanted to, I guess there was a couple of things that I picked up from your presentation. Thanks for coming. And some of the things, especially the main 3 points that you bring up, they're similar things that we work on day in and day out as council and as councillors. So you know, we are very interested and focused on collaboration and consultation, the same as in trying to facilitate funding and extra grants or whatever collaborations in relation to financial support to projects in the Agnes area, 1770, and all of those other southern areas that we have in the Gladstone region. We also very strong in protecting our environment. So while, I respect all the responses that you have, I also, picking up on what you also just described, it just seems like, there's an understanding that we don't actually share the same, I guess, wishes for our community, when I feel we do. So, and again, we have constant, I've got a list here of, for example, recent engagement and activities that our council officers and plus, that's not even counting the things that we do as councillors, a list of activities and consultations that have occurred in the area, and that's not a little number. So, to I guess say that you want to, we want everyone to be involved. We have a process, I guess, we have a democratic process in which everybody's able to come and then, run for council, for example, run for other levels of government. We have also a number of organizations. That was another question I was going to ask you, going from Councillor Cameron's question about DCTC. Well, there's a lot of other organizations in the Agnes area and 1770 area, and I also like to know how it is that you connected with them. And so, I'm glad that you're here, and thank you for coming. I just want to say that I'm a little bit worried that same thing that we're trying to solve, as that divide and maybe some not good perceptions of what we do or don't do, might actually be reinforced by some of the survey responses, which they seem to me in some ways to be a little leading to, pointing the finger at how bad the council is. And that is not really helpful. When if we're trying to solve a problem, we need to talk about the problem. And and again, picking up from what Councillor Goodluck said, there's a lot of things that us as council and councillors have not as much influence as you think we do. And there is a number of other ways in which you can advocate, or people can talk to other levels of government and other organizations to influence some of the outcomes we are looking for, which we do as well. So my last point, which I was a little concerned about, was when you mentioned that there's a number of big pieces of data that are not really reflecting what you want to see. And as a person that I respect very much research methods and science, we don't go looking for data that's, well, we do, but we don't make up data. Data is data, and it's supposed to reflect what it is, what we have. So if the data isn't supporting what you want to see, that's the way it is. Maybe we need to rethink as to what it is that we're actually seeing. So anyway, maybe we go back to, if you don't mind, just telling us a little bit more about the relationships you have, or your organization has, with the other organizations in the area, which we have been talking to for a long time as well.
Sure. As I said, we started as a platform for all community members to be able to work together on common goals, whatever that is. That's not prescribed by us, and we didn't have an agenda to identify any particular goals. It is a resourced platform for more than two bodies to come together and work using that platform. So there was no more agenda in terms of, I guess, issues in the community or any of these things. It was an opportunity for the community to speak for itself. The platform itself, I guess, is translucent. And so as bodies come together and find common goals, no one's really defining that. And I guess anyone that lives in their own community will know their community's issues and so forth independently. You don't necessarily need data or stats to show that, but we do require a business case to support any real works that we want to do, and that's a numbers business. We're certainly not creating data, we're certainly not creating statistics, but to generate local
quantitative information is very beneficial because we don't have any. We don't have any for our immediate locality. And it is only to support some of the macro data that we do have that doesn't really speak to some of our grassroots needs. The macro data is useful for us, but it is from the top down. And so we were looking for more of a qualitative and quantitative impression of our community on a daily basis. Especially over the last few years, we've changed a great deal. Everywhere has changed a great deal. But for us to sort of catch up with a real picture was very important for us. Some people in Agnes are very unsure about our population and our true population. You can ask a group of people and they'll all give you a different figure, a different number. That's just the perfect example that population qualifies requests for resources. It qualifies a whole range of stuff. Population alone, if we don't get a more accurate picture as to who and what our community really is, we can't possibly make more requests and find the support that we need. And that was really, I guess, the goal of that, was to highlight more clarity and more honesty around the numbers, not to highlight anything to do with council or any other organisation for that matter. It was really to support, I guess, the true picture of our community that those who live in the community are more aware of. So we're just trying to quantify that to be able to support our own needs.
Excellent. Thanks, Byron.
Well, that's great to know that that's the intention. I think I'm really glad that you are going to work with the GRT group so they can maybe add a bit more of survey methodology and understand how to, I guess, have more unbiased questions in surveys. They're very good at it, and I'm sure the results will be great, and I look forward to seeing them, and it'll be very beneficial for not just the environment or some of these other things that you mentioned, but definitely in relation to social services, education and health as well.
Okay, Councillor Mossop. Councillor Hanson.
Byron, I'm encouraged by the way your group has approached this, and only got some positives there. There's some stuff we all have to learn, including us about you and you about us. And I'm encouraged that you're talking to all groups and DCTCs and sporting groups and all those sorts of people in the area, and getting a collective of where you think the Agnes should be over the next 10, 15, 20 years. So your approach to me is great, and I hope that you keep working collaboratively with our people in trying to attain the best outcome you can for your region. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Councillor Hanson. Questions, any other councillors? No? Can I say thank you? I love the spirit of this. Agnes is a very special part, not just to the councillors, but to me personally. I've spent a lot of time there over the years, driving there as a kid when it was a gravel road. It's a very important part of our community, and I love the fact that you've come here with good intentions, and I love the spirit of cooperation that you're presenting as well. I'll be keen to catch up personally as well, but just myself with the Heart of Agnes in Agnes next time I'm there. I know that there'll be councillors there around Anzac Day as well, which is coming up soon. Obviously, Easter's a very busy time in the city. It's also a busy time for Volunteer Marine Rescue in Agnes as well. So I can hopefully catch up between now and Anzac Day, if not after that. But thank you for your presentation today. Councillor Churchill.
Happy to move the officer's recommendation that the deputation from the Heart of Agnes Community Association Incorporated be received.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill, and seconded Councillor Trevor. Did you have anything you want to add? No?
No, thanks, Mayor. I think everything has been said. Congratulations, Byron, to you and your team. I wish you well.
Me too. Here. Okay, and I put the motion now. All in favour, it be received. Thank you, Councillor Muscat. Thank you, Byron. And
Did you get a second of this to me?
I did, Councillor Trevor. Yes. Very enthusiastic. All right, thank you. We'll move on with the rest of the agenda now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
All right. Councillors, the next item on the agenda is the officers' reports, and the first officers' report is G4.1, the monthly financial report for the period ending the 28th of February 2023, and I'll hand over to the General Manager of Finance, Governance and Risk, Mark Holmes. Thank you, Mark.
Morning, Mayor. Morning, councillors. This report is with respect to our monthly financial position as at the end of February, and essentially takes us to 2/3 of the way through the financial year. So very much in line with the reforecast that we presented to you last month, so sitting in line with predicting that $500,000 surplus at the end of June and are tracking to that currently. You'll see there's a couple significant variances there, and that are essentially more timing related with respect to the performing of work, which is respect to our contractors and consultants, and equally the receipt of that revenue associated with sometimes we get those capital grants, particularly for those funded programs, and therefore we recognise that revenue when we actually do the work. So as a result of some delays in our work program, and you'll see when you get to your capital works portfolio, we're around about 50% of our forecast at this point. So that sees those tracking behind. So our capital spend, $26 million year to date over a forecast of 53.1, which is just a little bit over what we budgeted at $51 million. So that has come down this month, and we're likely to see that just potentially floating in around that $51 million mark as we go through. There is a higher level of confidence in that revised figure. The outstanding rates, we're now down to 5.37%, so that's an improvement over the same time last year of essentially 0.6%, so certainly performing well in that space. But happy to answer any questions with respect to the report.
Thank you, Mark. Questions, councillors? Councillor Churchill.
Thanks for that, Mayor Mark. Yeah, thanks, Mark. That's a General Manager, very impressive report. I just wanted to clarify on page 8, which was the Dawson Highway Drynan Drive water main relocation. And I understand the claim of the 0.7 million, but in your last line you said significant claims are expected in the last quarter of the year. I was trying to get an understanding of what you referred to as significant, and or more so, is this the last quarter of the financial year or the last quarter of the year?
In the context of this report, we've written as the last quarter of the financial year.
In the last quarter of the financial year. And when we make reference to the significant claims are expected, are we expecting anything unexpected in relation to the cost of resources, or is there any blowout or blow-in?
No, so we've let that tender, and works have commenced on site.
Works have commenced this morning. Yeah. Oh, yesterday morning, sorry. Yeah, it's
fantastic. Yeah, very timely, very timely.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill, for raising it.
So certainly we'll see that works come through, and essentially we'll allow to A, incur the cost, but B, then we'll actually get the recoverable side of that as well. So that'll all occur in that last quarter.
Okay, in that last quarter. So effectively we're nearly in that last quarter, which is April, May, June. So it's looming now.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. It was about the timing.
Yeah, but it is fantastic to know that the work has started on Drynan Drive. Obviously we did underground works earlier, and it's good to see that intersection being upgraded.
Well, I think my relevance to the question was not only that, and I'm completely satisfied with that, but I think somewhere in amongst it was the relocation of the water mains and also the traffic lights, where the two different projects. I know that there was a certain level of interconnection, but one had to be done. One had to be done appropriately, but it's finished.
Yeah, and equally both final projects through main roads.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Branthwaite.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is probably just a clarification, because I didn't quite pick it up in the dialogue below. The thing was on page 11, which is the contractors and consultants. We've got an actual spend there, a budgeted spend and a forecast spend. The forecast is actually $8 million more than what the budget is. Is that to do with the Drynan Drive?
Correct. Like $4.5 million of that is Drynan Drive. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Muscat.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And actually, my question is also on the same point as Councillor Branthwaite, and is, I guess, Mark, could you maybe talk to us about, would it be worth having the contractors and consultants separate? Because I guess I am a bit interested in understanding how much we are spending in relation to budget, in relation to to consultants.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially since, we have a high turnover rate and, those, yeah.
So generally contractors are people are doing, essentially performing work, and essentially would be almost that day labour type of result, whereas consultants we're getting in to do very specific deliverable work for us.
Yeah.
We do separate them out from a costing perspective, and we absolutely can report those separately.
Well, I don't know if the other councillors are interested, let's just sort of maybe to track a little bit of the consultant fees more than the contractors for my preferences, but I would like to see that if other councillors agree in the future.
Councillor, you referenced there, though, when you were saying you want to see that because of the turnover rate, that would generally be reflected, though, on contractor spend. So generally we would be getting increased contractor resources to assist us in that space.
Yeah, okay, I understand. Yeah, I still... Anyway, does anyone else have any thoughts on this? Or
I think that's a fair request. If you would like to understand the budget better and that's the way you can do it, then absolutely. It's not hard to do.
And it's data we capture. It's not hard.
Is that okay, Mark? Is it a big change or?
No, it's easy.
Very easy.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions on the report there, councillors? No? Can I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Hanson. Seconded, Councillor O'Grady. All in favour. Motion's carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is G4.2, Proposed Amendment to Local Law Number 2, Animal Management, 2011, and Subordinate Local Law Number 2, Animal Management, 2011. Hand back to Mark and to Vicky Hankinson as well. Thank you, Vicky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is some proposed changes we have to our animal management local law, and we've gone through a significant review of that local law during this operational plan period. So we've got a series of changes proposed there, and as part of that local law process, we're now to go to the community to make that law and go out. So you'll see a list there of the changes that are proposed with respect to that. So we're seeking essentially this formal resolution at this point to go through that formal process.
Wasn't working. Questions to General Manager or to Ms Hankinson? No? Beg your pardon?
Is that a question or is it? No, I'm making a comment to myself. It's the first sign.
Did you answer
it's
yourself?
It's the first sign, yeah, but I haven't answered it yet. So, no, it was only a small matter in relation to the greyhound area. I wasn't particularly aware. I tried to Google that, the green collar approval, of greyhounds and those that are retired from racing. So I noticed in F, remove the requirement for greyhounds in the... So we're removing the requirement that they have to have a green collar approval from being muzzled when out in public places, and trying to understand, and I have a background in the greyhound industry, is that it's more a matter, from years gone by, it's more a matter of understanding if we're removing the requirement, then who's policing or who's actually monitoring that these greyhounds can appropriately be walking the streets without muzzles.
Yeah, it's part of the state government's review that took place in relation to the racing industry, and trying to rehabilitate those racing greyhounds into general community as pets. So basically the state government has put in place whereby where the racing greyhounds have been appropriately rehabilitated and they've achieved green collar status, which means that they're not aggressive and they're appropriate, they're basically just like a normal pet dog, then there's no requirement for them to be muzzled when they're walked in the community. Previously, we as a local council would ensure that greyhounds were muzzled when they're being walked in a public place.
Whether retired or not.
Whether retired or not.
Yeah,
so now if they've got green collar status and they actually, they indicate that by wearing a green collar, then they're not required to be muzzled when being walked in a public place. Yeah, so it was one of the recommendations that came out of the review of the racing industry.
Okay, so it's a statewide approach.
Yes,
okay,
yes,
thank
that's
you.
right.
Yep.
Before I go to Councillor Goodluck and Councillor Cameron, when it says statewide approach, is it statewide legislation? Are we required?
Yes, it was basically, this is the same everywhere in Queensland now. So it was part of that racing industry review that was undertaken by the state government. So
I get that, but if a greyhound attacks a child that has been a racing greyhound that we've removed from our local law, who's responsible for, who's at fault? Us for changing this, or Queensland government for amending the legislation?
Ultimately, it was the state government's decision to change the rules around greyhounds.
Yeah, I have friends with them dogs as well. I've seen them. Sometimes they can be great, but I've also seen what they can do at a greyhound track. Councillor Goodluck.
Mayor, mate, can I just get a point of clarification on that now? Is that, and I suppose, is more a matter of, and I'm a total supporter of the greyhound adoption program for those that have retired from the industry. But if it's a statewide legislation, it's a statewide enforcement legislation for Queensland, because greyhounds do move around the nation, you know, and we have interstate greyhounds and vice versa. So is there a national approach to this, or appropriately, if it's an interstate greyhound, does it come to Queensland and it complies with our green collar approval laws?
I'd probably have to give you some more advice on that outside of, I could take that question on notice. But yes, our King and Company solicitors have drafted it in accordance with the state legislation. So yeah, so we've taken the lead from there.
Yeah, okay then. Especially when we talk about off-leash areas, which would appropriately, the green collar approval would appropriately allow them to be off-leash.
Yeah, they would be treated like
dogs.
any other dog. Yeah, yeah.
All right, so work in progress.
Yeah, and I can certainly give you more detailed history of the review process undertaken in the racing industry and the outcomes of that.
Okay, thank you.
We are open for public consultation until the 12th of May. So nothing's set in concrete at this stage. If you pass the resolution today, it doesn't mean that that's what you will ultimately adopt. So if greyhounds is an area of concern for you, we can certainly get you more information and you can consider that issue after the public consultation process.
It only becomes a concern when something serious happens, and as you say, you see the good and the bad as such, hopefully more good than bad.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Good. Oh, sorry.
I'll
Vicky.
certainly follow that up for council.
Councillor Goodluck, Cameron, and then O'Grady.
Yeah, my parents had adopted a retired greyhound who only recently passed away from old age, and it was a lovely temperament dog. It would never hurt a fly. I think this is a good change. The dog was absolutely lovely natured, and the reality is you could get people who do the wrong thing with any breed of dog, and that dog can be a potential hazard to other people. So I think this is good. But I just want to congratulate the team on the work that's gone into this. There's some really good changes here, and encourage anyone in our community who might have an interest to make sure they take advantage of the opportunity to input in, I think it's 21 days public consultation period. Is that correct?
We're actually proposing to take it out for longer this time, Councillor Goodluck. We want the community to get as much time as possible to input into the process, so we're leaving public consultation open until the 12th of May. So it's a good 6 to 7 weeks.
That's really good. So yeah, make sure if you're watching or if you know anyone, make sure you take advantage. And there's some interesting things. Lots of people might think we only deal with cats and dogs and greyhounds, but there's also some changes to racing pigeons, which actually is again very good, because I've had some dealings with racing pigeons, believe it or not. So yeah, make sure you take the opportunity to have input from the members of the public perspective, and I look forward to seeing that report come back. I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation if you haven't got one.
I'll take the mover, but then I do have more questions. Can I have a seconder for the motion, please? Second, Councillor Churchill. Move, Councillor Goodluck. And before I go to Councillor Cameron, there's also includes in there in the Rainbow Bee Eater about dog off-leash areas and dog on-leash areas in 1770 that people might be interested in reading. Councillor Cameron.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. My question's about wandering dogs, or dogs that perpetually end up in the pound. Yes. When is enough enough, and is there a policy about these serial offending dogs, and at what point do you take any action? What action would that be?
That's probably a better question for Rob, in terms of we actually draft and make the local laws. Rob's team are involved in the enforcement of those provisions, so I don't have much of any insight other on the day-to-day monitoring of that local law, but I'm sure Rob can do that.
Thanks, Councillor. Yeah, we work fairly closely with the animal owners to try and reach a resolution for those animals. We certainly take a lot of measures to control animals that are declared as dangerous dogs. So we take a different approach with those and very firm approach to ensure that those animals are managed appropriately within our community.
Does it ever get to the point where you've got to report this animal or the owner to the RSPCA or anything like that?
If we believe the animals are being mistreated, for sure, yes.
Okay. And what happens after that? Is the dog impounded, taken away from the owner?
It is, yes.
If we have got any situations where we've had to do that?
We have, yes.
Okay. And we have strict protocols in the way we go about that?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cameron. Councillor O'Grady, and I think Councillor Muscat maybe had a question as well.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Vicky, I don't know whether it was this or another one that came to council a few years ago, but there was an issue with kennels. So when, like with a tourist attraction, you know, a camel go for a camel ride and whatever else. So this is not this law? No, it's a different law.
That's probably a very good question. This is more about keeping of them rather than using them for a business purpose, a commercial use.
Yep, yep.
So this is actually housing the animals and enclosure requirements and so it's more about keeping of animals rather than commercially using them.
Yep, okay, right, thank you.
Okay, any further questions, councillors? Councillor Trevor.
Thanks, Mayor. Vicky, I just had one question in relation to the legal interpretation of your summary, paragraph 2, alignment of dog designations to support the state government's position on no dogs in protected areas, because I think that some of those issues that you mentioned in paragraph 2 are going to be quite controversial, particularly down Agnes Water Way, and I understand the reasons for the exclusion zones, both for and against. Yes. But you mentioned the state government's position. And that is the state government's position is obviously enshrined in law. Are we bound as a council to follow legally that position at law that the state government has proffered, or can we digress from that depending on what the community consultation reveals? Because I can see a couple of controversial ones there, and I do
absolutely,
and I do ask that the Agnes Water community hearken to that proposal in there, because if we don't have any choice, then it's not our fault, regardless of what the community consultation results in. But I don't want to be entrapped or snookered into a position where the community consultation is such that no, we don't want it, and yet we haven't got any choice but get blamed for it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
If it's a state government requirement that we must do it, I don't want to be blamed for it, and I'm sure nobody else around this table does either, and that's the point of clarification I seek, because as part of the community consultation, if the state government if it's a requirement of us to follow the state government legislation, I don't want to be blamed for a decision that needs to be made in accordance with the law, rather than us, following it as a matter of course, but not bound by it.
Can certainly answer that for you, Councillor Trevor. It's not enshrined in legislation. The state government actually produced guidelines which they consider to be best practice in terms of managing their national parks and conservation parks. So we're not bound legislatively to follow the guidelines, but it is considered to be, I guess, best practice by the state in terms of, and a collaborative approach to preserving these areas of state significance, basically. So legislatively, absolutely, you can do something different, but the state is certainly encouraging us to give those guidelines consideration.
On the one hand, I can see the argument in relation to the protection of our turtle rookeries, our nesting areas. On the other hand, I can see an argument from those who have ownership of dogs, who want to access those beaches, to have the ability to take their dogs there during the off season, so to speak, where the turtles aren't nesting. So you've got that sort of, I understand both positions. But I think that's going to be a sort of one of those areas where we might have to have some good consultation on before any final decision is made.
Absolutely, and we have not, in the past we have had cases where we haven't aligned strictly with the state government guidelines. So yes, council can still make its designations how it sees fit based on public consultation. The state guidelines are just that, guidelines, not a requirement on us.
Okay. Thank you, Vicky. Any further questions? Do I have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Goodluck. Seconded. Oh, I did, didn't I? Sorry. Got sidetracked. Okay, well, I'll put that motion. All in favour? Motion is carried. Thank you, Vicky, and thank you, Mark. No, Mark still stays. The G 4.3 is contestable energy, small energy sites. Head back to you, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item is with respect to our smaller electricity sites. So essentially, we already go to market for our large electricity sites, so those that are over 100 megawatts, and we also currently then, for those that are under, go through another collective process to make sure we're getting those best value for our electricity contracts. That contract has 3 years old and is now coming to its expiry, and we're out to market at the moment with respect to that. What we're seeking here is a resolution to provide authority of the CEO to enter into that contract at the result of the conclusion of that process, given that essentially the timing that these offers stay open for is essentially 1 week. So to essentially meet those timeframes from a contractual perspective just becomes a little bit unwieldy to try and manage that within a council meeting timeframe.
Yeah. It's fairly straightforward, this one, councillors. We're working with 18 other councils. Councillor Churchill, yes.
Yeah, I agree. It's very straightforward and very pertinent. Just in your finance and resource implications, Mark, General Manager, you've indicated the estimated annual cost of the intended contract over a 3-year term is $1,035,000 excluding GST, or $345,000 excluding GST annually. So it's there in your report. Is that our overall energy cost for the Gladstone Regional Council of
No, that's just for this contract. So those sites that are subject to this contract.
This is the small.
These are small
I was
sites.
just going to say, I must have.
I wish that was our electricity bill.
I'm trying to, immediately when I read it, I thought figures just don't seem to be, but that is just for the small portion of the contract relevant to the energy site.
To this paper. So these are these small energy sites. So these are ones that are under the 100 megawatts that we can go to market and get this resolution. So we are entering into trying to get that essentially scale by entering and going with 18 other councils. So hopefully get that benefit.
So can I ask the question then, the $345,000 annually is for all the small sites?
Yes.
All the small sites? Okay, thank you.
Yep. And we do get a good deal by going with those other councils. Councillor Hanson.
Totally supportive of it.
Happy to move the resolution.
Thank you. Move Councillor Hanson, seconded Councillor Muscat, or do you have a question? Seconding?
No, I'm very happy to move. I'm very happy with this paper.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, no further questions? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Motion's carried. Okay, the next item on the agenda is G 4.4, which is the tender... No.
I forgot about this one.
What happened?
No, this is
not yet, Mark.
I did forget this
one. He was going to do a runner.
Not yet, Mark. This one could be interesting. G 4.4, which is the tender 91-23, inflow and infiltration smoke testing of sewer network. Back to you, Mark.
So, Mr. Mayor, this report is with respect to the PSA that we've gone into for our smoke testing of our sewer network. So part of our regular maintenance and testing programs is we go through and do that smoke testing of our network to understand where we are getting that infiltration, so we can go on and fix up to protect our network. We did receive 2 offers to this tender. There was a significant difference in the evaluation been included as a confidential attachment, and the recommendation there is to go with Detection Services Proprietary Limited.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Second, Councillor O'Grady. Any questions for a General Manager? No. I'll put the motion. All in favour? Motion's carried. Thank you. No, you're done, Mark. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is where I have a conflict of interest. I'll hand over to the Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number G/4.5, material change of use for outdoor sport and recreation at Lot 300 Coronation Drive, Tannum Sands. We'll hand over to the General Manager for customer experience. There we go. Rob Huth. Thanks, mate. Over to you, Rob.
Thanks, Councillor. Good luck. Firstly, I'd like to correct the property address for the proposed development. It states 300. It's actually Lot 900 Coronation Drive. So I just want to make that clear.
Make that update. Thank you.
The subject site is zoned emerging communities under the council planning scheme, and the proposal meets the requirements of this code. The development application did not require referral to any state government agencies, nor did it require public notification as a code accessible application. The proposed development is supported by detailed planning studies which confirm the site is suitable for the proposed use. The application is recommended for approval as it generally complies with the requirements of the planning scheme and doesn't raise any significant issues that cannot be addressed through reasonable and relevant conditions. Conditions include, but not limited to, the construction of a footpath linking the existing path on Old Tennham Sands Road and construction of a bus stop on Coronation Drive. And we have online our planner, Nick Cooper, who will be able to answer any detailed planning questions.
Any questions, councillors? Councillor Trevor?
So
No, you
mine was just a general question. I'm happy with the material before me, Rob, but for the purpose of the community's benefit, not mine, I just if you could explain to them online, so word gets out, where to from here, like the processes from here. So, and I've raised this issue before, and it's been explained very succinctly, but I've forgotten. So if you could just, assuming this is approved today, can you just, it's not the end all, it's not the end of the game, it's not the pool has been approved and it's full steam ahead. We all know that, but well, some of the community won't. They'll think this is great, assuming it's done today. But it'd be great if we could just keep the community appraised, probably on a regular basis every time these steps come up. So there's no expectation out there, false expectation, that this is the green tick and it's a full steam ahead. I'd just love the community to know each time it's raised, so that it's reinforced in their mind and my mind, what steps we've still got to undertake as a council to make this project happen if it does happen. That's all. It's just so that the community is fully informed as we proceed along the path towards perhaps a final approval, construction and opening of the Boyne-Tannum Aquatic Centre.
Councillor Trevor, I might just jump in. There's two separate matters that you're discussing there, and very conscious that this report only relates to the development approval. Maybe we could bring that, provide an update in general in council reports or in one of those sections. Just very conscious we have a very deliberate split of responsibilities, and we're just dealing with the DA, but understand the points that you're raising about community, understanding the context of the project. But if the chair's okay, if we may just stick to the business of approving or not approving the DA, and then we might be able to follow that up later in the meeting to keep the two parts separate. Would that be acceptable?
Yes, that'd be acceptable.
Yeah.
I'm not seeking to be obstructionist or mischievous. No. What I'm seeking to do is make sure that our community is kept appraised, even though we're working within this square, and I understand that process. I constantly get asked what's happening with the Boyne-Tannum pool, and I'm sure that every one of us get asked more than I do. But it's just there's a little bit of confusion out there as to the steps that are still required and the process and all that sort of stuff, CEO, that I'm just trying to help, not hinder, if you know what I mean. So yes, if we could, through you, Deputy Chair, raise it as a separate general business item, just so that the community knows what's happening, I'd really appreciate that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, thanks for that. My question is pertinent, I suppose, to the development application, and it's exciting. I'm totally supportive of the officer's recommendation. I say that in advance, but it's exciting that we've actually got to this stage. But when I looked at the infrastructure aspect, and this is probably a subset to it, but I'd just like to get an understanding in relation to one part of the infrastructure, which was the fencing. And it clearly articulates that in there that there is a requirement of fencing of 1.8 metres, which is appropriately 6 foot, albeit my height is that. And I know that this was raised at the Boyne Tanham RSL gathering there when there was some level of consultation in the earlier piece by the residents on Dunn Street in relation to the height of the adjoining fence line. And I know that there's certain statute legislation that's, the adjoining fences, but I'd like to get an understanding. I know we're not talking about the concept, but I'd like to just get some comfort or assurance that if this project, or when this project proceeds, if there's a slip and slide or whatever the case might be, that the fencing appropriately in two areas of the fencing. One is the adjoining fence line with the residents in Dunn Street, that the fence will be high enough and or sufficient enough to ensure compliance with legislation, but at the same time a safety factor from any children potentially climbing over the fence into the aquatic centre outside of ours. And if there was to be an infrastructure built in the aquatic centre that allows people to go up high, if it's slip and slide and whatever, that people's privacy is not likely to be invaded as a result of people using the aquatic centre. And my other question relevant to the fencing is 1.8 metres. If that's a boundary fencing for an aquatic centre, in my opinion, it's not high enough, unless there's some special design that restricts or limits anybody from going in there, climbing the fence after hours to go into the aquatic centre as a safety and a security factor. So I'd just like to get some understanding in going forward that there will be a protective measure in place in relation to Dunn Street fencing or adjoining property owners, and when the facility proceeds in whatever the concept will be, the final concept, that there will be sufficient security and safety fencing.
Do you reckon you could get over a 1.8 metre fence?
Easy.
Easy?
Easy.
I want to see
over.
this.
Straight over. One grab and I'm over.
Thanks, Councillor. I might refer to Nicholas online. He might be able to talk more specifically around the requirements of the fencing. But from what I understand, and Nick will be able to provide a bit more detail on this, the fencing that we're talking about that faces Dunn Street is still some ways away from the Dunn Street property. There's still vegetation between, which is the part of that lot 900. It doesn't actually adjoin the property boundaries on Dunn Street. But Nick might be able to talk more specifically to that. Nick, if you can, please.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Rob. With respect to the height of the fencing, the 1.8 metre fence requirement is from the planning scheme, and that will be conditioned for the perimeter of the pool property, or for the pool footprint. There's no maximum requirement for fencing, so the applicant may choose to build higher than 1.8. The condition is for a minimum height of 1.8 in accordance with the planning scheme requirements. And in terms of privacy, yeah, it's noted in the report that the site is some distance from the Dunn Street properties. I think it's over 50 metres separation of bushland. And so in terms of privacy and overlooking, it's not anticipated there'll be any massive impacts in respect to that.
Didn't we approve the 1.8 metre fence for the private application that we had just recently for a swimming pool?
I believe it was 1.8.
I believe it was.
I need to check into that.
I believe it was 1.8.
Minimum height of 1.8, yep.
I've asked the question, thank you.
Councillor Cameron?
Yes, regarding the fencing, what we're doing here today is we're looking at a material changes use of the land, and that's all we're looking at today. We're not talking about the actual development of the property itself, of the building. We're only considering a material change of use as far as I can see.
Thanks, Councillor Cameron. Rob, I just had an issue on the stormwater, a question, sorry, not an issue. The stormwater drainage, which seems to be, it's the natural water flow down into Pride Street. It does say in the conditions that the applicant will have to obtain plumbing and drainage works and that sort of thing. So we can be fairly confident that we won't have any significant impacts into that sort of stormwater drainage in those surrounding streets through the process that we're going to go through in this space.
Yeah, again, Nick might be able to talk to you more specifically, but there's no worsening effect. So any developments that we approve, or we put conditions on them to ensure that there's no worsening of any downstream properties with respect to stormwater.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for. Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? No? Do we have a mover for the officer's recommendation? Moved Councillor Cameron, seconded Councillor Branthwaite. Did you have a question, Councillor Trevor? Or no? Sorry, mate. Well, Matt will have to get you next time, I'll make sure. No further questions. We'll put the motion. All those in favour? Declare it carried. Thank you. If we can invite Mayor Matt back to the room.
I will be turning my camera off now.
Thank you, Councillor.
And my microphone too.
Goodness.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Councillor. Good luck. The next item on the agenda will be G 4.6, and Councillor Branthwaite, Councillor O'Grady and Councillor Muscat all have conflicts and have left the room, and Councillor Muscat has turned her video and camera off, microphone off rather. So that is Tourism Services Agreement, Gladstone Area Promotion Development Limited, and I'll hand over to the General Manager of Community Development and Events, Kylie Lee, and welcome Kim as well.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, councillors. I'd just like to welcome again Kim Markson, who's our Manager of Arts and Entertainment and also Council's lead for tourism, and also acknowledge Gus Stedman, the CEO of GAPDL, who's in our gallery today. Council has enjoyed a partnership with GAPDL for the past 16 years, entering into agreements to deliver tourism services. The current agreement is due to expire at the end of June 2023. Our agreements are usually 3 years in duration and have an associated work plan that's co-designed between the two parties and monitored over the course of the period. Over the past 6 years, Council has funded GAPDL in the order of $393,000, and in addition between $2,200 and $6,600 for support for cruise ships and the Feast on East markets. Tourism and Events Queensland also provide funding to GAPDL, which requires dollar-for-dollar matching from strategic partners. Council has consistently matched funding from TEQ for the duration of this partnership with GAPDL as their strategic partner. In September 2022, TEQ formally advised GAPDL that their funding contribution for 23-24 and assumed beyond will be reduced to $284,000, a reduction of $109,000. This is a result of funding being redirected to other areas of the state. The overall funding available from TEQ has not been reduced, rather redirected. Officers have spent a considerable amount of time considering the options available to Council to negotiate an agreement that presents the best value for Council, provides GAPDL security in future investment, and also achieves the outcomes we wish to achieve for our region as a tourism destination and also a livable community. The office's recommendation for Council's considerations remains consistent in its investment to continue to match the funds as a strategic partner together with TEQ. This will allow GAPDL to continue its destinational tourism attraction work. Council is in a position to focus on livability in the Gladstone region through its brand and communications team, which would need a small allocation of budget of approximately $50,000. This would bring the total budget for tourism services to $334,000 during the 3-year agreement up to 2026-27, which is a saving of over $70,000. This is the preferred option for Council to ensure we can continue with a balanced focus of destinational tourism and regional livability. There are also other options available for Councillors' consideration, and these are to increase the investment. The option has been explored to increase the funding to $500,000 to continue to receive the current level of service from GAPDL at a greater cost. This option will require other services currently in the community portfolio to be decreased to ensure Council is maintaining a responsible budget in line with our commitments for a sustainable financial future. It will be an increase of approximately $75,000 on our existing investment. Another option to Council is to maintain the existing funding, which is $393,000. Should we choose this investment level, GAPDL have advised that funding in this level will result in a decreased service should we not be able to fund the financial shortfall. The work plan prepared by Council will still require alignment with TEQ's deliverables. There are also other options that councillors could explore, such as funding the operations of the visitor information centres, and also exploring the state government's proposal to introduce a visitor levy, which Council would collect to offset additional funding. This would require a separate resolution of Council for consideration at another meeting. I'll just hand over to Kim in case there's anything that I've missed. Kim?
Thank you, Kylie. I think you've covered it all.
Right. Thank you. So we'll open to Council's questions.
Thank you. I have a question from Councillor Goodluck, but just for myself first. The funding for the cruise ships again, how much was that, sorry?
The funding for the cruise ships depends on how many cruise ships come to Gladstone, but it ranges between 2,200 and 6,600. That's a difference between if it's a regular cruise ship and a regular feast on East Market, or if it's a welcome, a first arrival.
Okay. All right, so that's not up for discussion today. That's separate again. Okay, good. Thank you. I don't want to confuse the two. Councillor Goodluck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Kylie, so the reduction in funding of $109,000 per year from Tourism Events Queensland, did you say was not a reduction, but it was a redirection of funding? Where was that funding redirected, sorry?
I believe it's been redirected to more of the cities rather than the regional areas.
So I just think that is an absolutely inadequate decision from TEQ. Once again, regional Queensland is sacrificed for the betterment of the southeast corner or the bigger cities. We have a small amount of funding, $300,000 a year. Was it 300? 393 from TEQ. That's our funding. What's the total from TEQ, sorry?
They match it.
393.
So it's 393. So a small amount of funding to market not only our entire region, but the Southern Great Barrier Reef, all of our beautiful, national parks and experiences that we can have here. At the same time, we just continuously seem to see regional Queensland be forgotten about and left behind for bigger, our bigger cities. And I just think it's not good enough. And now we're in a situation where we've got to make this decision. The great work that GAPDL does to market our region to the entire state of Queensland and the nation, our entire country and abroad, and we've now got to do that on $109,000 less a year, whilst the big cities who already have bigger budgets and bigger capability to attract statewide, national and international visitors get more money from us. I think that's really deplorable decision, and I'd really encourage the state government to reconsider that decision.
Thank you, Councillor Goodluck. Councillor Churchill.
Well,
oh, sorry, I did have Councillor Trevor
no.
first. I'll go Councillor Trevor, then Councillor Churchill. Sorry.
Thanks, Mayor. I wholeheartedly support the sentiments of the Deputy Mayor. It saddens me to see us once again missing out, and the advice today that the money has been redirected to South East Queensland just makes me more bitter. Well, not bitter. I think just sad. It's just really disappointing that this should happen to our community. They take our gas and coal royalties. Now they're taking our tourism money. That's where we're up to, isn't it? Isn't that the situation today? Look, I know personally the magnificent work that GAPDL do for our community under the leadership of Gus Steadman and his troops down there. We only saw a presentation 2 weeks ago which warmed all of our hearts with the amount of effort and determination to promote this region. It's just, as I say, very, very disappointing for me as a person who's served many years in public life to see this decision being made. And I don't think, in my personal opinion, that we have any other choice other than to proceed down option 2 and make up the money that the state government has taken from us, quite wrongly I believe, in order to facilitate the continuance of the great service that the GAPDL does for this community and our region generally. I never want to see this region turn into a one-trick pony, and I've always been an aggressor when it comes to arguing not only for industry but for other facets of our daily living and our community well-being, and tourism is one of them. It offers us great humility, but it also offers us enormous pride in our region, and it attracts and retains the staff and workers that we need in our major industries, in our health services, in our domestic services and our retail services. I think I don't have any choice other than to support a motion, and I'll move it now in relation to option 2, because another word for decreased services, as you've outlined, or other words for decreased services mean loss of jobs. And I'm not going to support any option that involves the loss of jobs in this community. It's bred into me, and I can't change my view that for the sake of $109,000 supported by this council, the alternative is loss of jobs for local people. And that is why I move, Mayor, option 2.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. That would actually be an increase of 218,000, option 2. If you're talking about an increase of 109, that would be option 3 to maintain the current level of funding. Option 3, sorry, 393. So I'm just confirming you're happy with option 2, or did you mean option 3?
I read option 2 to be the takeaway of the state government of the 109,000.
Oh, sorry, yes. So it's 100. That that means we'd leave it as what we currently do, plus include the 109 being taken from the state. So that is what you meant, I think, yes.
And that, as I understand it, will be the same level of income and same level of service that GAPDL will be able to provide.
That's correct.
So what I'm saying is if TEQ has taken 109 from us, then I would like the Gladstone Regional Council to contribute that 109 and make up the deficit, because it's critically important that we do so.
Thank you. Okay, so option 2, can I have a mover in Councillor Trevor? I'm sure there'll be more discussion and conversation, but I'll need a seconder for that motion. Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Councillor Goodluck had a question.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm not against that motion, Councillor Trevor, and I agree with what you said, but I'll put to the room, my concern is that this is the thin end of the wedge. If we've seen this approach from TEQ now, with a reduction of funding in $109,000 per annum, who's to say that under the next agreement that there won't be a further reduction, and that if council makes the decision today to pick up the shortfall, are we sending a signal that, well, you can just defund you know, the services here completely in the Gladstone region, and don't worry about it, the ratepayers of the region will pick up the shortfall. That is my concern about the signal that we send. Make no mistake, to me, this is an abandonment of our region. This is, nothing infuriates people more in regional communities than to not only have reduction in funding, but to have that funding refunneled to our counterparts in the southeast corner, where all the funding already goes. This is an abandonment of our opportunities to be able to attract people to our region. So I just put that for thought for council. I do agree with your sentiments, Councillor Trevor. I'm still not sure which way I'm going to vote even now. I'm hoping someone's going to give, you know, more debate so they can, I can make a clear decision. But that is my biggest concern, that this is a thin end of the wedge, and if we send that signal to the state government, well, we better be prepared to continue to pick up the shortfall in years to come.
Thank you, Councillor Goodluck. Councillor Churchill.
No, Councillor Rich before me. So
Okay.
it'll be interesting debate.
Either or. Councillor Hanson.
There is another, option 3 is another option. I agree with Councillor Trevor that we should be keeping the funding the same, no matter which way we have to do it. But option 3 offers the current funding that we give. There's also opportunities there to fund extra things like the visitor information centres, which I think is about $120,000 a year, I think, off the top of my head. It's somewhere around that, $65,000 and $60,000 for the visitor information centre. That could make up some of the shortfall, but I do agree with what Councillor Trevor said, but that is another option, to fund separately these other parts of the organisation.
Councillor Hanson, can I just be clear, at the $393,000 investment, we will not get the same services we're currently getting from GAPDL. So we just need to be clear about that. The services we currently get from GAPDL will remain at a $500,000 investment. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, thank you for that. I've certainly got mixed feelings on this particular situation, and I share the sentiments of my colleagues. I just share that, having been in my previous life right in the thick of negotiations when it comes to partnership funding with Tourism Events Queensland, and I've heard the state government being criticised, but we need to understand the circumstances. Tourism Events Queensland appropriately is the arm. It's the Tourism Events Queensland that's made the decision. From what I'm reading and understanding, this hasn't been a direction from the state government, unless of course that's something that we're not aware of. But Tourism Events Queensland themselves. So I've got a couple of questions that jump out that'll help me to make a more informed decision, because there's a huge danger here in setting up a situation, what is known as devolution of responsibility or delegation. We've seen this, and it can happen by force, or it may just happen by natural attrition sometimes into the land of local government. So my first question is, has the amount been provided and confirmed in writing of that partnership agreement of the reduction from Tourism Events Queensland?
Yes, it has, Councillor Churchill.
It's been confirmed in writing. It's not a verbal I understand what happens in the world of negotiations, because nobody ever puts anything to paper. It just goes backwards and forwards in verbal dialogue, but it's in writing.
In September 2022, TEQ formally advised GAPDL that it would reduce its funding.
Certainly. Okay. And my next question is, has Tourism Events Queensland budget increased, or Tourism Events overall budget for the regional tourism organisations? Because I'm also suspicious that there might be something else behind this in going forward in relation to our regional tourism organisations, which has been tried a few times previously. When we start to talk about financial sustainability of regional tourism organisations, as soon as you start to take away the feeder, which customarily is that partnership dollar, then something else may be part of the agenda from Tourism Events Queensland. Has their budget remained the same, or did they get an increase in budget from the budget allocations going forward from the 1st of July? Because we're talking the 1st of July 2023.
Councillor Churchill, their budget has remained the same. They've simply chosen to reallocate it differently.
So they've reallocated from the smaller regional tourism organisations into the Big Five, which was always known as the Big Five. My next question in relation to the funding model from Tourism Events Queensland appropriately is there a new framework in going forward that will allow for project by project and or what was known as contestable previously, and they've changed the names over a period of time, sometimes to confuse those that perhaps aren't close enough. So will there be specific project funding being made available to our regional tourism organisations, whether it's visitor information centres, whether it's campaign relevant, or whether it's just purely and simply projects, programs and services? I'd like to have an understanding of that.
Yes, my understanding is that the 284 becomes the core funding, and then there is project funding available on a case-by-case basis that can be applied for.
Okay, then,
so
which
require matching of strategic partners at those times.
Which appropriately would be leaning to option 3. Not necessarily I'm leaning that way, because I understand where Councillor Trevor's coming from, and I wholeheartedly agree with the Councillor Goodluck, because what happens is, before we know it, this is a one-year agreement. Before we know it, we end up in a circumstance next year, as they lead to the 2023 Olympic Games in the southeast Queensland corner, that could be reduced to 200 and then 150, and before you know it, it's actually our ratepayers that will be paying for all of the tourism services if we don't have that partnership. And the fact is, at the end of the day, tourists know no boundaries. Tourists know no boundaries. And that's what Tourism Events Queensland needs to understand. When we get them into our region, we want them to experience all of Queensland while they're here. So can I just get an understanding now if that contestable funding will be from the 1st of July, project specific, and whether GAPDL, and there's more information that perhaps should be in this report. Councillor Hanson's our appointed representative to the board there as well. Is it very likely that Tourism Events Queensland will then announce that there's funding available, and then GAPDL has to then come back and then ask us for more money to go into the budget for whatever it is that may be coming forward in contestable funding?
Yes, that could happen. There is project funding becoming available from 1st of July. GAPDL are prepared with a number of projects that they can apply for. if they required strategic partner match funding, we would need to come back to council.
So then appropriately option 2 would be the more pertinent one, but we don't know what those projects, programs or services are going to be at this particular stage, even though GAPDL's compiled that list. So if we went option 2, and I know you've got a motion right as it stands at the moment, but if we went to option 2, are we then going to be effectively saying to GAPDL, there's the amount and now that's all encompassing, don't come back to us again for additional funding for any of these other partnership fundings that Tourism Events Queensland is going to put out as a tantaliser for them to be involved with? And do we miss out if we don't have the funding for it?
Councillors, another option that you may wish to explore is to maintain the existing funding at 393, but apportion some of it as your contestable funding budget. So, for example, fund at 284,000, which continues to match TEQ's investment, and then apportion the extra $99,000, which would be contestable funding, as part of your budget. It's just another option that you could consider.
And that option has merit as well. But then the subset question to that, and then I'll try and wrap up a little bit so I can make a more informed decision. If that was the subset, if that was to be the case, and I think there's some wisdom in that, because then we're not going to be seen to be, no matter what Tourism Events Queensland says next year or the year after, and Mayor Matt, you would remember the green paper and the white paper that was delivered previously, and others may be well aware of it, when they keep looking at the model of tourism services in Queensland and the impact it will have on our regional tourism organisations, is that the question that jumps out at me right now is that we don't know what those contestable funds are going to be. So we would be setting the scene to say, from those wise comments there, that we match the dollar for dollar with Tourism Events Queensland, and we have an additional budget allocation, which is what I suppose is probably part of option 2 or option 3, then my question appropriately would be, what would be the financial sustainability of GAPDL as a regional tourism organisation if we don't have a backup plan or a backup budget allocation? Because at the end of the day, I can tell you, you make these regional tourism organisations not financially sustainable, Tourism Events Queensland will come along and change the model completely, and we won't have an RTO, and that'll be a sad demise.
But with that option, am I right? I am right. GAPDL would have to reduce their services with that option you've just spoken about.
So, Councillor Hanson, yes, they would. So, at the investment of $393,000, it does reduce their service. However, I've just done calculations on the fly, just because we're looking at a different option. If we were to maintain our consisting funding, matching TEQ at $284,000, have a contingency as a contestable fund of $99,000, and then funded the shortfall in service delivery around the livability component, which was $50,000 in this paper, you would be looking at an investment of $443,000, which is still under the $500,000 mark. So,
okay. Listening to what everyone's said, and as I do, writing down, we have a difference between options 1, 2, and 3, which are the 3 options you've given us. I think what I've done is I've sent something through to Tanya and to Rachel, just as a potential option. I do have a mover and seconder in option 2 at the moment, but this might be able to get it across the line, I'm not sure, which is if we stick with the officer's recommendation, which is, and this point 4, which I've sent on email, which the ladies might be able to bring up shortly, I think we need to send a message to Tourism Events Queensland, and I have sat where Councillor Trevor is now and where Councillor Cameron is now, and every time I've argued, when there's been a report come to Council saying that we should only invest, say, $150,000, but Tourism Events Queensland putting $200,000, and I've argued for more, saying we should match what the Queensland government give to our RTO. We should match it. So if they give more, we should match it more. We do the same with our RADF grants. We say if you want to give so much money to RADF, we should match it, and we should give them more so they match it. We should always leverage from high levels of government and this is no different. However, we also can't let our RTO fail. It started as the Gladstone Image Committee when there was dirt roads and probably no sewerage, and the city didn't have a very good image, and that's where it grew into this amazing tourism organisation, which it is, and does good things. So my recommendation would be that we send the message back to TEQ that says, we will match your funding, what we have always done. Taking $109,000 means you are reducing funding to our RTO of $218,000, and that's not acceptable. However, if we put a 0.4, and if we're able to bring that up on the screen, I'm not sure, that will achieve what Councillor Trevor and Councillor Cameron are hoping for, and it was just basically that we allocate $200,000 in a tourism business promotion fund, which would potentially go to GAPDL, or you could even add the words GAPDL in there, but I think it needs to be separated so that we say to TEQ, this is not good enough. You shouldn't be taking our funding and spending it in the southeast corner. Of all the places. Sorry, that's just outrageous. Can we bring that up there or not? We can't. Thank you. We'll get that on the screen. And there's, where's 0.4? Oh, 0.2, sorry, thank you. I was going to say that's not what I wrote. The council allocates an additional $200,000, which would then basically be the funding. It's a rounded figure rather than 198 or 205 or whatever. It's a round figure, which gives GAPDL exactly what TEQ give them. We match that dollar for dollar. We leverage off the state and we match it. And then we have an additional $200,000, which we could, if council determine, to give to GAPDL to promote for tourism. I mean, it says it in there. For the promotion of business and tourism in the Gladstone region, no one does that better than GAPDL. Yeah. I think that might achieve what you're looking for, Councillor Trevor, Councillor Cameron, and trying to hear what other councillors are saying as well, it might give us a similar outcome. But that's my thought as potential amendment to your motion. But before I go to Councillor Goodluck, Councillor Trevor.
I'm happy to fall on my sword if I need be in relation to my motion, Mayor, and I respect what you're trying to do to bring uniformity of opinion around the table. At the end of the day, I think we need to send a message to GAPDL in relation to certainty, in relation to protection of jobs, in relation to our support for the wonderful work that they do on our behalf and on behalf of our community. I think the psychological support is equal to the financial support in relation to any decision today. And for the sake of $100,000, and we often discuss whether we're going to approve or not approve millions of dollars worth of infrastructure around this table, for the sake of $100,000 and for the sake of protection of jobs, I stand by that, because if services are decreased, and let's assume for one moment that they are, what financial impact will there be in the future in relation to those decreased services so far as attracting additional tourism to our community and attracting workers and other members to our community? Livability, correct, Councillor Hanson. So I get back to the point, for the sake of 100,000, what impact will any decision other than option 2 have from an economic point of view? And we constantly talk about economic development and promotion of our region. How many tourism dollars will we lose by scrimping on $100,000? And that's my question. It's an unknown question. It cannot be answered today. It can't be answered by anyone. But my concern is that any reduction in services by taking away the $100,000 and not supporting the provision of that funding today may have a significant impact. It might be $1 million. Who knows? So for the sake of $100,000, we forego $900,000 or $1 million. I know it's crystal ball gazing, but I think it's a risk we have to take as community leaders, and that is why, as I say, Mayor, I'll fall on my sword if I have to, but I'm happy to continue to support option 2.
Yeah, that's fine. Councillor Goodluck.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I think Councillor Churchill mentioned the 2032 Olympic Games, and we've heard that, this is not Brisbane Olympic Games, this is Australia's Olympic Games, this is Queensland's Olympic Games, and we're on the runway. 9 years, we're on the runway to the Olympic Games, and what a mockery this decision from TEQ makes of the sentiment and the spirit of the 2032 Olympic Games, whereby you're stripping away funding and therefore stripping away the potential opportunities we have in regional Queensland to hit that runway running, so to speak, and really capitalise on the opportunities. I just think it's an absolute disgrace. But I'm leaning towards Councillor Trevor's motion.
Okay. Is there any further questions or comments, councillors?
I just think I agree with everything you said, but I think it's about maintaining the service that we have here and increasing the service. And I think that we have an obligation to, as Councillor Trevor said, to take a small risk to keep this community livable. And we're promoting the place around the world.
Thank you. Councillor Cameron.
Yeah, just finally, I totally agree with Councillor Trevor. I think that the services the GAPDL give us are first class. We cannot afford to diminish the services. If anything, we should increase them, give them more ability. So I stand by seconding the motion for option 2.
Okay. Well, I was only trying to make it so that we could get the message to TEQ, but you never know. Maybe someone from Tourism Events Queensland is watching this morning and they've heard the message loud and clear. Is there any further comments, discussion, or debate?
Yes, please.
Thank
Just
you,
in
Councillor
dot
Churchill.
point 3, and trying to understand now in delegating that authority, and understand that for a term of 1 year with an option for council to extend for up to a further 2 years. I know the intent of that particular point in the recommendation, but from outside in Tourism Events Queensland land, that's sending a message that we're just going to have a look at it for the next year and see how it goes. Is there some reason why it's only a 1 year partnership agreement, or is it going to be a year-by-year basis? Because at the end of the day, we don't want to be sending a mixed message to Tourism Events Queensland that in relation to the model of regional tourism organisations.
Councillor Churchill, that was simply put in there as a safety net if TEQ do decide to return to the original funding model.
If they decide to return to the original funding model, or alternatively if they change the model again, which has changed so often over the period of time, or they go through a whole amalgamation process of regional tourism organisations and making the bigger bigger and the smaller smaller. That's the other side of the coin. All right, thank you.
Okay. Before I put the motion, I just need to be clear in my head. If there is contestable funding, will GAPDL will be able to apply for that? Or is they've been given this funding and then they'll... I know how TEQ works too. I remember in the day they go, no, that's your money you've already got. You need to get more in order to leverage here. So if we allocate this in one bucket and not 2 buckets, which is what I was trying to do, and I'm happy, it's still the same outcome, just 2 different buckets. And I would have been happy even if their recommendation said allocate the 200 to GAPDL, so it cannot go anywhere else. I don't want them to then say, well, no, that's the funding you've already got from council. In order to leverage more for this, what's it called, when they do a marketing campaign, you need to get more from council.
It is a risk you'll have. So with the $500,000 in one payment to GAPDL, if they then are applying for project funding for contestable funds, they most likely will come to council for matched funding.
I honestly think, councillors, I know the sediment, and I think we can achieve the same outcome of option 2, and you can use the exact figure rather than the rounded 200 to say we match TEQ and we allocate the additional amount, and you can even add the words in to GAPDL. So they still get the same amount of funding, but we don't risk an opportunity for TEQ to then say, well, you don't get this, you're not eligible to apply for this funding because it's got to be matched by local government and not what you've already received from local government. I've heard them do it before. I was on the board for 8 years or more. God, however long it was. I don't know. I'm comfortable with your...
I like that option, but I don't think you'd be falling on your sword, Councillor Trevor, if we went that way. I think your outcome is still the same, just that we're trying to safeguard future funding options through TEQ.
How much is the gap? Is it 218?
226 is the contestable funding amount. Is that what you're looking at?
There was 109 from... They've dropped the state tourism events Queensland are pulling out. And if we don't match that, isn't that 218?
Yes.
So if we make it up to 218, if you want it to be exactly the same, just point 1, point 2, allocate match funding, and then 218, which is the shortfall, GAPDL gets exactly the same amount of money as they did last year. It's just split in the recommendation so that we are clear to TEQ, this is what we're giving them. They've got this much here for match funding. This other money, this is our money. Between us and GAPDL, it's got nothing to do with you. Keep out of it.
So the total amount would be?
Exactly what they're receiving currently. You'd still achieve point 2, recommendation 2, but it'd be just split the recommendation. Can I have that worded somehow?
Could I just ask, Mr Chair, will that address the issue if the money's still committed from council? Will it address the issue of it being matching contestable funding in addition to council's?
If we word it properly, it probably can be. Let's have a look at it.
I think we could probably look to manage it similarly to how we currently do. So we have, for the past 3 years, committed 393,000. We've paid 300,000 as GRC's core funding to that and kept 93,000 that GAPDL can then apply to us on a project-by-project basis. So I think it would work very similarly. We would commit the 284,000 core. We would hold the funding that makes it up to the 500,000, and we would pay that out on a project-by-project basis, but it would be held there for GAPDL.
Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, coming back to Councillor Trevor's motion, perhaps a minor amendment in wordsmithing, so that Councillor Trevor, well, I understand your intent wholeheartedly, and certainly don't want you to fall on any swords. I can assure you that. But maybe if we're increasing the funding to GAPDL to 500,000, which is actually the partnership funding, and the extra, I'm not sure the exact wording, but the extra is the contestable funding that allows some latitude. So it may only just be a little bit of level of wordsmithing that council increase the funding to GAPDL to $500,000, contestable dollar for dollar partnership funding and contestable funding, and continue to receive the current level of service at that greater cost.
If it helps, we currently refer to it as project funding. So we have our core funding and our project funding, if that helps with wording.
And we have some wording on the screen. Provide match funding.
And all that would, and all that may require would be for Councillor Trevor and or Councillor Cameron to be receptive to, not that I want to move an amendment, but to amend, or for you, Councillor Trevor, with your original intent, is just making sure we still have the same amount there, but we're not going to let Tourism Events Queensland off the hook. We're still providing the partnership funding. Thoughts?
That was basically what I was trying to do, but I was just doing point 2 rather than in one motion. But that's still I think that still achieves what I was trying to achieve, and I still think it achieves what Councillor Trevor and Cameron were hoping to. But I could be wrong. I mean, I know what you. It's easy. We can allocate the 500 grand in one hit, or we can do it in one motion, which is exactly the same but allows flexibility. Kylie?
The current amount that we have in the resolution will total 502,000. Needs to be 216 in contestable funding.
My maths doesn't work out. My maths works out, but I'm happy to accept that. Councillor Trevor, your thoughts?
I just don't like the reference to the word contestable funding, because by pure definition it's contestable by everybody, and I don't want any strings attached to this money. I want them to be able to spend it for the promotion of our region and not be tied to some argument that it's contestable and no, sir, you can't have any because it's going somewhere else. I don't like strings attached. We're either giving them the money or we're not. And I understand totally your position in relation and experience, Mayor Matt, in relation to these arguments at boardroom level. And perhaps that's an argument for a later day. I think the message around the table has been quite clear today that we are most indignant and disappointed with the decision to take this money from a regional community and deposit it in the greater part of southeast Queensland. I think that view has been succinctly expressed today, and as disappointing as it is, someone has to stump up the cash in order to ensure that our community, from a tourism perspective, continues to grow, and our economic promotion of this part of Queensland is not impacted by some decision over which we have no control, other than to make sure that our decision today is in our control and protects our community from not only an economic investment point of view for our future, but also the protection of jobs and the support of the great work that the GAPDL does and has done since its very inception back in the early 70s, when I was a young boy riding around on my Melbourne Star bike on the dusty streets of Gladstone. So I'm acutely aware of how much contribution this particular community-based organisation has had to this community. It's raised millions upon millions upon millions of tourism dollars for us. And I cannot sit idly by and argue over $100,000 when I know that their contribution has far exceeded that. And as I say, in the millions, probably tens of millions of dollars over the past 30 years.
Councillor Trevor, if it does...
He got me.
Oh, sorry. Councillor Trevor, if it does give you some security, the current way the agreement is set up, they have GAPDL has a project fund and they submit their projects a year in advance. So we do provide access to that funding. There are some framework that we put in place and some guidelines to make sure the money's allocated to tourism in our region, but there's certainly no strings attached in the current proposal with the project funds.
I think we're all wanting the same outcome. I'm happy to support what you're saying, Councillor Trevor, at least at an officer level. When you pay the bill, can you please pay it matching that contestable funding so it can be shown from GAPDL and from our records, because our finance reports come as they did just earlier in the meeting. There'll be an allocation, and I would like to see a $284,000 allocation match funding and then an additional one just for our own finances, where we can see that this is the extra money, and I'm happy. It is an extra $109,000 from council, but when you think about it, it's actually an extra 200 and something thousand because they're pulled out. We're only increasing what we paid last year by 109. That's true, but really, this is 200,000 extra that we have to find because they've withdrawn. We should be matching that. Tourism is really the responsibility of the Queensland government. Don't get me started on what we might be picking up next. So, we're really picking up the tab for where they're dropping the ball, and I get why we're doing it. I don't think there's any argument around the room. I think we've had enough discussion and debate about it. We do have a recommendation from Councillor Trevor and is seconded by Councillor Cameron. Is there any further discussion or debate? I'm going to put that motion now. All in favour? The motion is carried, and I'll call the division. And the motion, please, councillors, all in favour. Councillor Goodluck, Councillor Trevor, Councillor Cameron, Councillor Hanson, Councillor Churchill and myself are voting in favour of the motion. Thank you. We'll get their councillors back, please.
You were feeling the sword. Were you feeling the tip of the sword?
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Councillor Branthwaite, Councillor O'Grady and Councillor Muscat. Welcome back. Councillors, we'll move to the next item on the agenda is G4.7. We have voted to split this this motion. And so we'll deal with the Mount Larkham one first, please. Over to you, Kylie.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, councillors. We're considering two signature events today. The first one we're considering is the Mount Larkham the Mount Larkham Show, for 2023. The Mount Larkham Show is the region's only agricultural show, and it occurs in June every year in Mount Larkham. The event has great appeal and attracts a significant portion of our community as well as visitors from outside of our region. The request for funding is consistent with their previous year's request of $25,000. Our panel has assessed the application as per our policy and standards, and it ranked highly in most areas apart from the data collection to validate attendance. Steps have been taken this year by the Mount Larkham Show Society to improve data collection, which will improve their application for 2024. Based on the funding matrix approved, the application scored 70%, which results in partial funding of $21,250. I welcome any questions. I have Libby Catamol, our Community Investment Officer, here to also support any questions you have.
Thank you. Questions, councillors? We're all quiet after that last one. All right, can I have a mover for the officer's recommendation then? Oh, sorry. Oh, of course it isn't. Okay, so Councillor Muscat, were you moving something then, or were you asking a question? Sorry.
No, I was happy to move.
Okay, so we split the motion. So you're happy to move that Mount Larkham Show be provided $21,250 in funding? Yes. And I'll have a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor O'Grady.
Just a question. There is training with...
I did, Councillor O'Grady, as seconded the motion. Thank you. Yes.
Just a question through the chair,
yes,
as appropriate. Is the education going back into this group about their shortfalls? Are we continuing education with the committee members and whatever?
Councillor Hanson, I can absolutely assure you we do. So we provide feedback to the applicant on their application and where they can strengthen their application. We also provide the panel commentary in a transparent way through the general meetings. And also Libby does continue to continue her road shows for community investment, which not only helps the application process, but there's tips and hints in how to address each of the key selection criteria.
I think I knew that, but just need to be reiterated.
Excellent. Councillors, any further questions on that part of the motion, which is for the Mount Larkham Show? I have a mover and a second. I'm going to put the motion. All in favour? Motion is carried. Thank you. We've split that motion, item rather, and the next, when Councillor Churchill heads out the room with his conflict of interest, is regarding the Gladstone Harbour Festival, which is happening very, very soon. Easter Thursday this starts. Back to you, Kylie.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and councillors. Obviously, the Gladstone Harbour Festival is a very much loved event for the Gladstone region, and it's also a significant component of our region's destination event, Easter in Gladstone. The Harbour Festival remains one of the only free community festivals in Australia, and it's celebrating its 61st anniversary. Unfortunately, like a few events that we have seen in the past, data collection hasn't been strong to validate some of the statements made in the application, such as attendance, social outcomes, destinational profile, environmental outcomes, which is all part of the assessment criteria. The recommended investment from the panel and in line with our investment matrix is 70%, which equates to $37,500 in cash and $85,000 in kind. Just for councillors' confidence in our decision making, GECC's cost amount to $82,008, which can be accommodated within the $85,000 in kind. Which is absolutely covered. The previous funding for last year was $45,000 and $85,000 in kind, which is a difference of $7,500 from last year. However, last year we put an increase to the funding for Harbour Festivals to celebrate their 60th anniversary. I'll open the floor to questions.
Thank you, Kylie. Questions? Councillor Goodluck. Seconder, please. Councillor Cameron, I have a question. The Harbour Festival is very soon. Is this going to affect the running of the Gladstone Harbour Festival?
We'll extradite this funding to them straight.
No, I mean the short reduction, no?
This is in line with their traditional funding. We only increased it last year for their 60th anniversary.
Okay. Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? No? Make sure you get out and enjoy the Gladstone Harbour Festival. Starts on Easter Thursday in line with our Brisbane and Gladstone Village as well. I put the motion... Sorry? All in favour? Motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. If we could ask Councillor Churchill to come back, please. Thank you, Councillor Churchill. The next item on the agenda, councillors, is G4.8, which is councillor attendance at the National General Assembly. And obviously we passed this at the last council. I can probably speak to this, passed this motion at the last council meeting. Unfortunately, Councillor Hanson can no longer attend, and Councillor Branthwaite, I believe, is volunteering to step into his shoes.
Is a very good reason why I can't attend, Mr Mayor. I'll be in hospital, okay?
I wasn't going to say your personal health issues on live stream for the world to see, but yes, thank you. Councillor Branthwaite, you're happy to attend, I believe.
Yeah, very much so, Mr Mayor. Thank you very much.
Happy to move that Councillor Branthwaite be our representative.
Thank you.
With yourself, Matt.
Seconded, Councillor Hanson. Any further comments or questions? No? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Motion is carried. Thank you, Councillor Branthwaite. And good luck, Councillor Hanson, in your medical. Yes, we don't need to tell the world what's happening. It's live stream, so. Councillor reports. We move to the next item, which is councillor reports. Do we have any further councillor reports? Councillor Churchill. Oh, I didn't hear any movement from the left side. Over to the right.
Okay, over to the right. You're looking over the right. Thanks for that, Mayor Matt. I'll make a presentation to you here. This was a Regional Arts Development Fund project proudly delivered by the Gladstone Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So I had the pleasure to launch the This Is Us photographic portrait and digital media collection of 30 women in business in the Gladstone region and their stories, and that was done down at the Moon Bar, thanks to Mel and Gavin and all those. So congratulations to the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and they presented this booklet. I was supposed to acknowledge their membership and events officer, Kerry McIntosh, who was, and there was a lot of people involved in putting it all together. So effectively, in a nutshell, this booklet is about how these 30 women in business, and it was all part of the International Women's Day celebration. Oh, it's now, I think it's International Women's Week celebration now, is it? I think it is. 364 days of the year, is it? Probably is, Councillor O'Grady. So look, this is also available in an e-book online, which might make it easier for our minutes, where they discuss their triumphs, the obstacles, the biases they have overcome in their careers, and advice that they will give to their daughters and their hopes for future generations of women in our country. So, and it was pleasing to note that the Regional Arts Development Fund, which this council around this table overwhelmingly supported, so 30 women in business, and make a suggestion, perhaps the next edition. Can I present that to you, Mayor Matt? And formally table it, yeah. But I believe that these hard booklets will be going into our libraries and into other areas. And so this was presented to the Regional Art Gallery and Museum. This is us. Excellent. 30 women. So perhaps the next edition from the Gladstone Chamber of Commerce and Industry might be 30 men in business. I'm not sure whether they'll go down that path. We don't have an International Men's Day, but...
There's an International Men's Day, absolutely.
Well, I'll plant the seed. But anyway, look, wonderful stories, and congratulations to the Chamber of Commerce and everybody involved in that project.
Oh, wow, some wonderful faces in there. Right. Any further councillor reports? Okay, there's no councillor reports. I
Yes, Mr Mayor, while you were out of the room for the item where you have a conflict, Councillor Trevor raised an issue he'd like to discuss, so we might have to ask you to leave and we can provide that update.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll declare a conflict in an item I'm not sure what it is, but back to you, Councillor.
Thank you. So I believe this is in relation to the Boyne-Tanham Aquatic Recreation Centre, given that the development application was approved. So just an update on Council's approach to that project, yeah?
Yes.
Over to you, Carly and Rob.
Hi. Thank you, councillors, for the request for an update. So the current activity that the project team is out working is in the defined phase of our investment decision framework, which means we need to complete detailed design and all statutory approvals. Obviously, today does mark a milestone in that project, and we are undertaking an update of the conversations page. I think the officers are doing it as we're in this meeting, and we'll issue an update to the community later today. If anyone online is interested in having a look at that, we always keep the next steps of this project updated on that page. So that's our conversations page on the Gladstone Regional Council website. I just did a quick look while I was sitting in the gallery, and if you Google pool at Tanham, Boyne-Tanham Pool, BTARC, or Boyne-Tanham Aquatic Recreation Centre or anything like that, the first thing that will come up is that page. So it should be fairly easy to find the current updates on that project. The tenders have closed for the detailed design, so we're hoping very soon to be able to award that and commence and complete the detailed design this calendar year.
Councillor Branthwaite.
Yeah, thanks, Deputy Mayor. Just is it a cookie cutter type of approach with regard to a pool with a proposed bulkhead in it? That'd be pretty standard, would they not? Just a matter of saying, well, this is the size, this is how it should be made up, goes there. Like detailed design, as far as that's concerned, or do we have to reinvent the wheel?
I don't think we need to necessarily reinvent the wheel, but there is a lot involved in detailed design. It's not just the pool that gets designed. That's where we do all of the site assessments. There's a lot of soil assessments. There's the landscaping design, the car parking, the facilities, the pool. So that's where all of the detail comes in. So I guess have pools with bulkheads been designed before? Yes, many times, and that kind of thing in itself is probably a certain type. There's maybe 2 or 3 ways you can do it, and that's it. Yeah. But the full detailed design package is fairly extensive.
So how long do you expect that process to last?
We've allocated 6 months in the project plan, but the tenders have closed now. I'm not on the panel, so I don't have any privy to that information. Once those tenders are assessed and we're able to appoint, we'll know exactly how long, how much, and what the milestones are. When we put the tender out, it was very clear that we wanted to have our detailed design completed this year.
Does that detailed design tender come before council, or not necessarily?
The detailed design itself won't necessarily need council endorsement, but there is the next stage. The other activity we're doing in line with this at the moment is finalising our funding strategy. As you know, we have a federal funding commitment, but there is a shortfall, so we're looking at how we can potentially fund that shortfall and where we can potentially access those funds. At that point, we'll come back to council with the detailed design, a much clearer understanding of the costs, because once you get to detailed design, you have a closer estimate, or a much better estimate, and how it will be funded, and that's when council has the opportunity for a final investment decision.
Cool. Thank you.
Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, I'm pleased that Councillor Trevor has asked the question today. But just based on what you've just said, and if it doesn't come back before the elected members, again, we're talking about the detailed design. At what stage does it go to the community, or at what stage does it go to the key significant partners, which will be the associated users, organisations who will definitely use it over and above just recreational users?
We're in regular contact with our key stakeholders. They're engaged all the way along this project. In fact, last week we even heard from them, thank you very much, you're definitely communicating enough with us, because we're testing in often to see whether we're communicating enough, but we have a minimum commitment of a monthly update. At the moment we're not doing any design, so there's just updating, but once we commence in the next phase we need to engage.
The issue that jumps out at me from my limited background in the construction industry is how much flexibility do you have in relation to a detailed design to increase it or decrease it, depending on budget or depending on aspirations or depending on some of those key stakeholders who may be forthcoming with other options that would further enhance it and have no or minimal impact on our budget.
Yeah. Not sure if I understood the question, but I'm not sure if this
Maybe
answers
I'll
you.
rephrase it. It's not locked in cement, that detailed design, if there was an independent stakeholder, key stakeholder that you're in communications with, who effectively says we would like to have this and we have the funds for it.
I'm sure council would consider that if there was further funding allocated. We do have certain specifications that we're currently designing to that have been endorsed by council, so that's what we are designing to. We do have regular communication with stakeholders though, so if something were to cause us to pause and have that conversation, we would. The other thing, when we put the tender out, and like I said, we haven't awarded yet, but when we did put the tender out, we were very clear with being able to have a staged approach here, because we don't have the final funding and we don't have the final funding strategy, and we're aware that potentially there may be some decisions that council needs to make around what we can provide to the community once we know exactly how much it's going to cost and how much money we have, and we don't want to have to go back and start again. So we've made sure that that's accounted for in this detailed scope of work.
Thank you.
Councillor Trevor.
Thanks, Chair. Just a couple of questions, Carly. Have we signed the funding agreement with the feds?
Not yet. We have had the request for an application, but I think I'm going off the top of my head here. Eric's probably watching online. I think it's 30th of June or August that we have to submit our application. So we're currently working on that at the moment. We're very active on that.
Thanks. And to make an assumption that, assuming the final investment decision is to proceed, the steps after that are essentially the successful tenderer will start constructing the project. And I know it's a bit of crystal ball gazing, but at this point, using that crystal ball and without holding you to any timeline, even though I'm just about to ask you for one, when would you think that the ribbon may well be cut?
So we're hoping to have the detailed designs completed this year, which puts us in a position in the first half of next year to start, if council decides to proceed, to award tenders for construction. So I guess that could be potentially April, May next year, somewhere like that. And construction is currently estimated, obviously tenders will tell us the time frame, but currently estimated to be 12 to 18 months from that point. So I guess if you're looking for a crystal ball, 12 to 18 months from mid next year.
No, that's great. I think it's easy for us sitting around the boardroom table and for our officers, because we've had skin in the game for a long time, to understand that the processes are required to take place, and they take a long time. I think a lot of the community don't understand that we just can't go, okay, well, we got $15 million from the feds from the last election, and we'll throw a few more million in, and we'll just dig a hole in the ground, and we'll throw some cement in, and we'll have it built by Christmas. We know that can't happen, and I think as long as we bring the community along with us and say, this is a normal process. It happens with every project. Every project takes time because there is green tape, there is red tape, there is all sorts of hurdles to jump. Sometimes, you know, the bar falls over, sometimes we're successful in getting over it, but it's a process, and I think if the community understand the journey and come along with us on that journey, rather than saying, well, you know, why have you stubbed your toe and stopped, then I think it's really important, because I know, well, I'm aware that the community have been looking for this project for a very long time already, but now that things are moving, should we say, in the right direction, it's still going to take a long time. Like, Rome wasn't built overnight, and that story, that comment may come back to haunt me, but it's going to take time. And as long as the community understand that, I think that will be a good thing.
Any further questions, councillors? No, we're all good. John and I have committed to a race on the opening of the pool day, mate, haven't we? So we might invite Mayor Matt back in to finish off the meeting. Thanks.
Yeah, but is that in the baby pool or the 50 metre?
It'll be in the shallow end, mate.
Thank you, Councillor Goodluck. Is there any further urgent business I'm unaware of? Excellent. No further urgent business. There's no notices of motion. There's no confidential items. Declare the meeting closed at 12:30. Thank you.
Clear.